next on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. NASCAR Race Night continues for a second week of 4 on this NASCAR iRacing Pro Series Invitational. Coming off of a season opener 2 weeks ago from Iowa. Tonight, we transition to the Richmond Raceway for a quick 40-lap sprint under the lights on the short track. It all comes your way next on iRacing Live. Live tonight from the Richmond Raceway. We're happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the second week of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series on iRacing Live. We'll get the night kicked off tonight with 40 laps at this Richmond Raceway, and that will also be followed up by our coverage of the NASCAR K&N Series powered by iRacing. That one's going to happen at about an hour from now at 9 o'clock Eastern Time for you on the East Coast. But Cisco, we are back with these drivers tonight from our second race on the season. And we saw a good one at a relatively similar racetrack just 2 weeks ago from Iowa. Some familiar names from that one here as well. Some new names that we didn't see in that one. The drivers on track right now just rounding out their practice session and actually qualifying for tonight's race as we speak.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun, Evan, and we had a great race, as you mentioned, 2 weeks ago from Iowa, and we're back at Richmond, which, I mean, some of these guys literally just ran this racetrack just a couple days ago, so it's going to be pretty cool to see a couple guys out there who have run this, and especially the guy who won the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race over at Richmond. He's on track here tonight.
Yep, Kyle Larson is going to be with us tonight, along with the likes of Bubba Wallace, Justin Allgaier. Those are some of the new names with us this week, and we'll have an opportunity to chat with them in just a little bit here. But talking about the schedule in this series, Andy, this series is going to be with us every other Tuesday throughout the rest of our iRacing World Championship Series calendar year. So tonight, the second of 4 opportunities. We're going to see these drivers on track and mix it up the track that will be at week in and week out, as noted, Iowa 2 weeks ago. Tonight, Richmond, the venue.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Evan. And last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, at Iowa, it was a fantastic race. We saw Ty Majeski top of the board, practice, qualifying, and during the race. But then a little bit of a mix-up there coming off of turn 2. Lost control of the car all by himself. Didn't hit anything, got back into the race, but was unable to get back up to the front. And, of course, we saw Christopher Bell take that win pretty handily as well, too. But some great racing all throughout the field last week. Expect the same here at another short track.
Just as it was those 2 weeks ago, right now the best driver in this open qualifying session is Ty Majeski. He's got his iRacing colors on his Ford Mustang. He's at the top of the board right now with the 2331 Jay Beasley. Somebody else who is a name that we see here quite often on the iRacing services go up near the top of the board. And then we noted some of the familiar names. Kyle Larson, 11th right now. Bubba Wallace, 12th. And Justin Allgaier in 13th position. I know those guys have been on the sim all day trying to practice for this one.
Yeah, I got to watch a little bit of Larson and Bubba practice on Facebook Live, so that was pretty cool to see. And just a lot of outpouring support, a lot of guys having a lot of fun out there. It's just gonna be a great event. This has been a great event. We had a great race at Iowa, and Richmond's gonna put on another one. So I think we're gonna step aside and see if we can talk to some of these drivers taking part.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can catch a word with some of these drivers. Again, they're just warming up for this one, and we will see if we aren't going to have an opportunity to chat with a few of them. But Andy, this Richmond Raceway, it is similar in Iowa in a way, but it is much more of a short track, clocking in at just 3/4 of a mile in length. It's going to be a tough race for these guys.
Yeah, the corners are a lot tighter, a little bit less banking as well, too. The bottom line's definitely the place to be. You'll see some guys flirting with the top side as well, too, as the rubber starts getting in onto the track. But this should be a lot of fun, a little bit more heavy braking at this racetrack as well, especially going into turn number 1. So a little bit different, but still a short track as well.
And I believe we have the driver of the number 14 Ford with us on the radio tonight, Darrell Wallace Jr. Bubba, you got us? Try to work and see if we can get his mic going. Again, he's in the number 14 machine tonight, and it'll be interesting to see as well how he competes. He's one of the drivers, Cisco, as we noted, that wasn't with us as of just 2 weeks ago, but there are drivers who were here in those past couple of races. Christopher Bell is notably who took home the win. He's up there back in these NASCAR XFINITY Series cars, the Toyota Camrys, Chevrolet Camaros, and the Ford Mustangs. A little bit down on the horsepower compared to the Cup cars in contrast, but I would almost think that these cars are some of the funnest, Andy, I guess, that you can see on a track like this.
Yeah, these cars are a lot of fun. There's a lot more downforce, a lot more grip, I think, a little bit less heavy than the Cup cars, so you can really wheel these things around this racetrack, and they tend to have a lot of grip at this racetrack too here on the sim, so it makes it for a lot of fun, a lot of side-by-side racing I think we'll see out of these guys as well.
The drivers having an opportunity, 30 minutes to get down times in this open qualifying session, and it is a fixed setup event, which means that everybody on the racetrack is going to be working with the same equipment. Sure, the manufacturer may be different, but underneath the hood, the machines on the iRacing surface basically carbon copy. So there is going to be no advantage one way or the other. This one is going to all come down to the drivers as far as if they can try to figure this thing out over the course of the night, and it is a very short race as well, and you only clocked it in at 40 laps at Richmond. You're talking about lap times just a smidge over 20 seconds in distance, and with a race with no yellows, that's not a lot of time.
No, it really isn't. We had 30 laps last week, 40 this week, so you get 10 more laps, but the problem is you run those laps pretty quickly. Like you said, 20 seconds. Over the course of that 40-lap run, they'll dip down in about the 22-second bracket like that, so they'll lose a little bit of time here, which will actually make it a lot more fun. Cars will be slipping a little bit, and that's when you'll start seeing some guys, maybe mid-pack or so, start to work their way to the front as they start to burn these tires off.
And again, we had both series in action 2 weeks ago, but this week it's all going to be right here on RaceSpot TV at iRacing Live immediately following our coverage of tonight's NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series. We're going to be picking up with round number 14 of the 2017 NASCAR K&N Series powered by iRacing. That's going to be right here on this same screen, so you don't have to touch the dial come the end of this one. That's going to be coming up again right at about 9 o'clock over on the East Coast. And just taking a look, Andy, as we watch these drivers work through what in all honesty is a qualifying session. The 30-minute open queue, the best time is going to be whoever starts on a pole. That's still occupied by Ty Majeski with that 23:31. These guys don't look like they're putting in too much of a concerted effort to get by themselves. It's almost like turning these final couple of minutes about 5 minutes away from us going trackside into a last practice session, and a lot of them have been practicing. Many people, I'm sure, were able to watch Darrell Wallace Jr. Facebook live stream as he was practicing earlier today. But practicing by yourself, I think, very notably, completely different than when you're doing it out there with some of these other guys. Many drivers in this field tonight have raced with each other in these cars on the real-world side of things. Some drivers may not be as familiar with one another, so a good opportunity to get acquainted.
Yeah, that's definitely what they're doing. Get out on the racetrack. It is one thing, like you said, when you're out there running laps by yourself, it's a totally different aspect than when you're out there with other drivers, other cars around you. The cars act differently. So it is a good thing, and I think that's why you see a lot of these guys out there right now running together with other cars around them, just trying to get that feel, trying to see what that car is going to do. If they're on the bottom, if they're on the top, can they use the top line to their advantage? So it's a good thing, good practice for them right now here in these 30 minutes of qualifying.
Just scrolling through some of the other names in this, what Garrett Smithley is with us tonight. He's somebody else who, even outside of the real-world racing stuff, is somebody who's familiar on the iRacing service. But of course, Garrett drives the number nothing in the NASCAR XFINITY Series. It is Chevrolet Camaro, so he's on track here tonight and finds himself in the middle of the pack right now in 7th position. We do have those qualifying times up on the left-hand side of your screen, so if somebody bests their current fastest time, you will see it flash green, and we've seen a couple of drivers that improve in the late moments of this qualifying session. Ben Kennedy, still P4, but was able to pick up his time just a little bit. Ty Majeski, I think, is satisfied, though, with his lap time. He is not on track. Neither is Jay Beasley. Those are the two drivers who occupy the top two times in the queue right now, and even Christian Ankis in third. Same thing, sitting on pit lane, kind of preparing for this thing.
Yeah, they are probably, you know, listen, you've taken enough laps, and you want to talk about a guy that's taken a lot of laps on iRacing. That's definitely Ty Majeski. I'm sure he's put thousands and thousands of laps on this racetrack. So for him getting out here, it's really trying to fine-tune his ratios and his steering offsets, things like that, that he can control. Of course, this being a fixed setup race. So just going out there, fine-tuning his stuff, getting it to where it's going to be comfortable for him for 40 laps, and I think he's ready to roll.
And I think we might now have the driver of the 14 on the radio, Darrell Wallace Jr. Bubba, you got us this time?
Yeah, I got you.
Sounds good. Well, hey, first, thanks for sticking with us for this one here tonight. I've seen that you've been practicing throughout the day. Kind of what are you thinking coming into this race now, just a couple of minutes from it getting underway?
I'm slow, very slow. I thought my test by myself earlier was okay. I kept improving, and I said to myself, I said, watch these guys be running like 30s and 40s. And, yep, I was right. So I'm still a half second off somehow, trying to figure it out, but I'm not going to really judge myself on Ty up there. He's like the 78, the Martin Truex of the iRacing deal, so I'll let him be on his own island.
Well, no, iRacing is something that you as well are very familiar with. I can recall just off at the top of my head, I think it was 2 years ago before the Clampitt World Truck Series race at Vegas, you were hosting truck open sessions in the iRacing hosted session. So this is obviously something that keeps you sticking around and coming back. What is it that you enjoy so much about the service?
Yeah, I just love it, how you can interact with fans and put on races and give them a feel of what it's like for us. And you get to reset. That's one thing we don't have in real life. If you smack the fence, you can't just hit reset and go back to the pits and drive back out there. So, but it definitely helps out, you know, getting the seat time, getting the track time, and the tracks that we go to on the schedule allows us to get comfortable with the track for going back. If we've taken a break from there, say like we go from Kansas twice in a year, at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, it's good to get back on there and get familiar with everything. So really enjoy it, and it's just really a good simulation for us just to go out there and drive cars and have some fun with friends.
We'll let you get out of here in a second. One more question. You guys, you're going to be hopping back in an XFINITY Series machine here coming up with RPM in the XFINITY Series. You'll be piloting that number 98 machine. You guys looking forward to that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to any time getting back behind the wheel of really anything this year. You know, look at Michigan, jump back in that truck, and we're able to win that. So that's our only goal we got going into this weekend, is to see how we can manage and make sure we're there at the end of the race to capitalize.
Well, you guys are going to be rolling off 10th here. Your time is better than Kyle's. I know that's something that you said earlier as well you want to get on top of, so we'll see how this race shakes out, and best of luck.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate it.
So that is the driver tonight of the number 14 Ford EcoBoost Ford Fusion. Bubba Wallace going to be rolling off at about 10th position here in Cisco, just seconds away from going trackside and getting this race underway.
Yeah, absolutely. And once everybody heads up on grid, this can be it's gonna be a little bit of a fight. I think it's gonna be interesting. Watch that 57 and that 14. I think those two in particular are gonna be racing each other quite hard this race. This is gonna be pretty awesome.
And they are going to be right basically alongside each other, with Wallace to the outside of row 5 and Larson to the inside of row 6. Andy, something else to note is we're working on a new iRacing build. The dynamic track surfaces just got an update, so even though it's a 40-lap race, it's not that long. That is something that will be a factor.
Oh, short track, the heavy braking, the hard turning through these corners. You will start to see that track really start to rubber up on that bottom side, and that's why I say towards the later stages of this race, probably the last 10 laps or so, you might see some guys trying to utilize that high line to try to get the run and get that pass if they can for the lead.
Let's head trackside, though, and take a look at tonight's Race Spot TV starting grid for your NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series from the Richmond Raceway. And qualifying on a pole for this one is Roush Fenway development driver and the driver who has the highest I rating on the service, Ty Majeski. With the 23:31, he will start from pole position and be accompanied by Jay Beasley, who qualifies in second tonight. Benjamin Kennedy picks up a few. He'll start from third position in this one, with Christian Eckes alongside in fourth position to make it up row 2. Just behind them, Christopher Bell rolls off in P5.
Yeah, 6th is going to go to Myatt Snyder. 7th going to roll off is going to be Garrett Smithley in the 43. 8th going to be Raph Lessard. 9th going to go to Todd Gilliland, and Bubba Wallace rounding out your top 10.
11th on the grid here tonight in the 57 is going to be Kyle Larson, winner here just a few days ago in a NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series. Blake Cook will start in the 12th spot. 13th goes to Justin Allgaier, and Gracie Trotter will start 14th.
Look top to bottom at your iRacing Live starting grid. Let's talk a little bit more about this Richmond Raceway. As we've alluded to a couple of times, it was just the site of the regular season finale in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, but Cisco kind of sticking with our short track format here with this Pro Invitational Series. We come to this 3/4 of a mile asphalt D-shaped oval, 14 degrees of banking in the quarter. One would expect that when you come to a race under the lights, the track temps are a little bit lower than they are today. Obviously, there's a little bit more grip in the racetrack. That may be true, but it's not a lot of grip. Drivers are really going to have to work that throttle, and for the drivers who don't, say, have as much seat time at the iRacing service like a Ty Majeski, are really going to have to use those visual cues to figure out what the race car is doing coming off of the corner.
Yeah, absolutely, Evan, and what's going to be interesting to see is how the lines also play into a factor here, because we got to watch a race on iRacing Live yesterday where we saw a lot of that take place, and that multi-groove racing really came into effect where guys were actually using the outside at Richmond to pass, which is kind of odd for this track. So apart from my voice crack aside, this is going to be a lot of fun, and these guys can be searching all over the place to find that little bit of an edge to get that pass made.
And again, 40 laps. We continue to stress it is not a long race. By these guys' standards, it is nowhere near a long race. Most racetracks they go to have green flag stints longer than 40 laps. But we did see last week, Andy, drivers start to lose the tires as the run goes on, either lose the car entirely or really eat up at those tires and then be slow as this race works on to the end. You are going to have to relatively pace yourself over the course of this thing. Keep that car in one piece.
Yeah, and especially on the sim, too, you really want to focus on getting straight off the corners. You want to be really pretty much from center off, straight up to that wall. The less turning you can do, the more time you make up, and at the same time, the less opportunity for that car to get really loose off the corner. So turn 2 is definitely one of the trickiest ones here on the service here at Richmond. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that for all these drivers out there, and we'll see how many how many drivers lay claim to that.
The iRacing.com official pace car is going to dive down to the pit lane this time, and we are going to go green flag racing tonight from Richmond Raceway. Happy to have you with us at iRacing Live as we go green. Ty Majeski is gone as we go racing for the first of 40 laps tonight, side by side for second. Ben Kennedy to the inside, Beasley on the outside of the racetrack as they fight in turn 2.
And Eckes now going to look to the inside right behind the 96. They're going to try and freight train the 27 up on the high side. Not going to work. The 43, Garrett Smithley, jumps to the inside. He'll get a little bit loose. He'll hold on to it throughout a 4. Still side by side. The 96 and 27. 27 will grab that position away from Kennedy.
And Smithley going to lose a lot of spots in that bubble. Got passed up by both Christopher Bell and Matt Snyder in the 2 machines. So it's going to be back to 7th position for him. Meanwhile, the battle for second is not over with. Beasley was able to get down in front of Kennedy as noted, but he's not getting away from him. It's definitely a big battle here. Zach is there, and now Bell looking to the inside. Will he commit to the inside in turn number 1? He will not go to the inside of Eckes yet, but continues to knock on the door. A little bit loose that time at a 2.
Yeah, a little bit loose. He's going to actually fall off the pace just a bit. It's going to allow Eckes actually to pull away from him and pull up onto the back bumper of Ben Kennedy now. They work their way off of turn number 4. The gap is definitely closed, but you see last time high, Christian Eckes kind of using that high line. This time sticks to the bottom. He's got a nose there. Half a car length now off 2.
All of this is going on behind a Ty Majeski, who has a 1.2 second advantage over Beasley in the battle between first and second position. That one not much of a fight at the moment. Over Beasley keeping at times honest, maybe able to challenge as this race continues to work on. Just looking through the back of the field, a couple of drivers going to forwards. Kyle Larson, who started in 11 spots, picked up a few. He rides P7 at the moment. He's been able to get around Bubba Wallace, who's back at 9th position. Matt Snyder is somebody who has struggled off at the start of this thing. There is some damage on that left side of his number 2 Toyota. If he got into somebody a little bit earlier on, he's back 2 spots.
Yeah, a little bit of a scuff to the left side of Myatt's car, but either way, single file for the moment. That car looks pretty under control, so he's going to follow in line with Kyle Larson. Actually makes up a little bit of time going into turn 3, but he'll lose time because Bubba's all over the back bumper in the number 2. He'll jump to the inside this time. Bubba Wallace on the inside as they head into turn 1.
Not going to define up on the outside of the racetrack, the 14, and not committing to go all the way to that yellow line. Now he does come out for the quarter. You got to be really careful. There's a spinner meanwhile at a turn 2, and it is Ben Kennedy. He was running in 3rd position. The 96 loops it around. No caution, obviously, and we are going to continue to go green. That will give Eckes the number 3 position as that battle between Bubba Wallace and company is not going to go well for the 14 machine. Got sideways in turn number 4. Again, is able to keep it going, but did hurt the left side of that car as he was digging a little bit too hard on quarter exit. We talked about discipline on putting that right foot down. 14 gave it a little bit too much.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I see a lot of damage on a bunch of cars up towards the front. We talked about Ben Kennedy with the spin. Well, I think he had a little bit of help there. You see a lot of front damage on Christian Eckes' car, as well as some rear end damage as well. So it looks like Christopher Bell, a little bit of damage getting into that. So a little beating and banging here at Richmond as the battle for second, or excuse me, yeah, the battle for third now heats up as they're side by side in 1 and 2.
Well, we did say it was a short track, it's a bull ring, and sometimes the bumper does come out. Even 7 laps into a race will be quarter distance. This time by, though, 10 laps in the books, 30 to go, as Eckes stays in front of Christopher Bell in that battle for third. Biggest mover continues to be Kyle Larson, who has picked up 2 positions in the last couple of laps, mainly because 2 drivers in front of him have been involved in incidents. So the 57 is up to 5th. Garrett Smithley trying to challenge with him. A couple of car lengths separate those 2.
Yeah, Garrett's starting to close in on the 57, but the closest battle right now is between Bell and Eckes, and Bell stalking the rear end of that number 15. Eckes looking to maintain that line right in the middle of the track. So down to the inside goes Christian Eckes, and he's going to hold on to that position, Evan. He's doing a very good job of running a defensive line, not allowing Christopher Bell to jump to the inside. He'll get very close there, nearly a tap, and he's going to get loose and took the air off the nose, and the 6 goes in the infield.
Well, we knew that these drivers weren't going to be afraid of it. The 6 ends up in the grass, and I think that's going to do it for Christopher Bell. So that means another driver from the top 5 has problems. We talked about this attrition rate, and that means that Kyle Larson in 5th will assume 4th position and gets another one as this race continues to go on. The biggest thing that I've been keeping an eye on at the guys up front is that Jay Beasley had been keeping Ty Majeski quite honest, Andy, over the course of this thing. It was sit rated about 1.2 to 1.5 seconds. That's now a 3-second difference favoring that number 64 up front, so Majeski really putting it on late.
Yeah, we're 15 laps into this race now, so you're starting to see, this is that first point or that first plateau. You start seeing the tires really fall off these cars as well, too. So it depends on how hard you drive it those first 10, 15 laps. Really dictates how your long run speed is going to be, and it looks like the 27, Jay Beasley, steadily losing ground right now to our race leader. But it doesn't look that way for the 15 of Christian Eckes. He's actually starting to close the gap now in that second place. Kyle Larson had a pretty good battle going on with Garrett Smithley. Those 2 continue into turn number 1.
They are step for step with each other. The 43 hasn't gained much. They've been basically even at about a car length of a difference every single time around. Looks like Larson doing a better job of taking it easy through the center, get back to the gas off, and pulling a little bit on the straightaways, whereas Smithley's driving it in, using a little bit more brake to get closer, but then is a little bit slower off the turn. Again, the 43 has quite the experience here on the surface, but so does Kyle Larson, both in these kind of cars and on the dirt side of things, both in the real world side and the iRacing service. And again, doing a good job before. He's your biggest mover, plus 7 positions. In front of him, though, Majeski 1, Beasley 2, and Eckes still in 3rd.
And Majeski is way out there right now. An excellent job by the driver in the number 60. And Beasley's opened up a little bit of a gap. It's about a second right now back to Eckes. And that battle continues with Larson Smithley. Not really able to go anywhere. Those two just kind of side by side. And speaking of side by side, Blake Cook and Ralph Lessard. Lessard jumping to the inside of Cook there on a turn number 4. And Blake in a draw. See if he can maybe drop in behind the 99. Maybe try and get the crossover move. Not going to happen. Blake going to run the very high line heading through 1 and 2.
The 11 machine is going to drop back a spot there, but he's still up 5 from where he started, so Lessard getting around him not going to be that terrible a news for the driver of that Chevrolet Camaro so far, having a good season over on the NASCAR XFINITY Series sides of things. We sit with right now 11 drivers still scored on the lead lap. Christopher Bell's spin at a turn number 4 has taken him out of this thing. Gracie Trotter is still in it, 13th, but 5 laps down, and Todd Gilliland is 12th position, 4 laps off at the moment as we cross the halfway point as of that time by, with Majeski still in front, 4.7 out to the good as we got traffic for Jay Beasley and Eckes and a battle for P2.
Yeah, great battle going on for these two. Eckes has actually finally caught the back bumper of that number 27. Just a lap ago, we saw Kyle Larson get a little bit loose off turn 4, able to keep that thing going in the right direction. But he lost a lot of ground to Garrett Smithley. He'll see if he can get it back up. Now, battle for that second spot, though, it's going to be a good one here. Even with the damage, Kristen Eck is now putting the pressure on in turn 3.
Yeah, well, you would think that maybe the front end damage on that car would be hurting him a little bit, but it doesn't appear to be the case. Eckes is doing a good job hanging with him, and that's both front and rear end damage. He'll look to the inside, and it looks like Beasley's going to give him the spot. Held the top line, will now come down off the quarter and move the 15 up to P2, putting him now 2 spots up where he started, and that's the first spot that Beasley has lost on the night. They're catching some lap traffic. Gilliland right in front of him.
This quite ain't over yet, Evan, because Beasley will not let him just get away. He did a really good job coming off at turn 4 to close that gap, but a very good corner entry for Christian Eckes. That car up on the outside was the number 16 of Todd Gilliland, and Gilliland now closing in on Jay Beasley. The lap car maybe trying to race a little bit here, see what he can do in that Toyota Camry. The 27 got a little bit of a wiggle out of turn 4 that time, though, loses more time, and now the 16 all over the back bumper.
Trying to just get something going and trying to find a way forward, and obviously, despite the fact that that car is a couple of laps down, still relatively good condition compared to, say, somebody like that 50 Eckes who is working with some damage. It is a short track, though, not the most of aerodynamic sensitive racetracks that you can come to, but I think if the 15 can stay consistent, he'll be able to continue to work it right away with this. Big issues, though, with Johnson Allgaier. Heavy smoke coming out of the number 7 Chevrolet. He took a big hit in turn 3 after getting sideways, and that's going to do it for him. That is pretty heavy damage. That car headed to pit lane.
Yeah, what happened? He got real loose coming out of turn 4 and just pounded the wall, went up in there, and you could see the black thick smoke coming from out the back end of the 7. It was all big problems for Justin Allgaier. He's put that car in the garage, it looks like, for the moment.
The tough break for Allgaier. He was running inside of the top 10, 9th at the time. He'll now drop down to the back and fall off the lead lap as this race starts to come to its conclusion. 12 laps to go as of the next time by. Garrett Smithley's 43 is right in the thick of things. Again, had a little bit of a self-spin earlier in this race, dropped back, but he's been able to work his way back through the field up to 4th at the moment. That's the 2 by. It's Snyder on the inside, a battle not for position. The 43 is looking to get up to the 27 of Beasley.
Yeah, he's trying to get up to him, but the problem right now is those guys coming off of pit road, fresh tires, and actually 2, Myatt Snyder's going to spin off of turn number 2. That's going to allow the 43 now clear sailing to get back up there. I was going to say, early on in this race and towards this middle portion, that 43 car, along with the 57 of Kyle Larson, looked to be a couple of the fastest vehicles on the racetrack as well. Smithley definitely looking very comfortable in that car here tonight.
Lap traffic really did cost him a lot, though, because he was right up to Beasley. The telemetry had him up to 0.2 of a second off of the bumper. That's what caught my eye, but now he's fallen again a second off of that continuing battle for P2. So the lap traffic really hurt him, and the 43 is going to try to make it up, but with only 9 laps to go as of this next time around, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get up there, Cisco, unless we see Eckes and Beasley start to fight again for P2. If they get side by side at all, that'll invite the 43 right back into this fight.
And I don't think Beasley's just going to sit behind and ride behind the 15. He did try and make a move earlier on, but lap traffic got in the way, so Beasley wasn't able to do anything there, Evan. Now off of 2, you can see Beasley get a very good run, but equally matched by Christian Eckes. Down to turn 3 at the 27, dives it in, has a very good corner entry in that Camry. Coming out of turn 4, he's riding the back bumper of the 15.
He's going to look to the inside, side by side for P2, the 27 of Beasley. On the inside of the 50 of Eckes, can he get it to stick off of the corner? You got to be so careful getting back to the throttle. The 15 cleared him by the time they got down the back, but Beasley once again dives to the inside, and they continue to go side by side. This is exactly what Smithley behind wants to see.
Yeah, it is. Smithley's going to want to take advantage of this, try to close that gap. Now the tires, though, very worn for these drivers. The 15 using that outside lane to his advantage. He'll hold off Beasley for the time being. He'll slot it back in line. Single file now off turn 4.
The 15 is able to hold off that attack, and Beasley hopes that he can recover and maybe try to get 1 or 2 more spots as this thing goes on. Through the top 5 behind that fight, you got Kyle Larson still in 5th, Ralph Lessard in the number 6 position, with Ben Kennedy 7th and Blake Cook at 8th position. Those final 2 spots between the 96 and the 11 may still be up for grabs. It's only about a half a second between those 2 drivers, but at least at the moment, nothing brewing. Inside of 5 laps to go from Richmond.
Yeah, 5 to go, and Beasley still trying to hunt down the 15 and make anything happen. A very good exit out of corner 2, and he's going to make up about a third of a car length. Now dives it in, and once again, right there is the 27. This is the battle on track at the moment. Beasley looking for any way past. Going to look left, right, maybe try the inside as they head back to turn 1. 27's very good on that corner entry into turn 3, Evan. Not so much turn 1. They're a little bit more equal there.
And the track corner is obviously different from each other because if it's a D-shaped oval. Turn 1, you enter much differently than you do turn number 3, and obviously you're exiting 2 different than 4, so somebody may have an advantage down at one end of the racetrack in comparison to the other. If something's going to happen, it's going to have to happen soon. Popsicle sticks in the air next time by.
Yeah, just 2 more laps to settle this out. Ty Majeski enjoying a 6.5 second lead right now as these 2 battle it out for that second spot. On the back bumper is Beasley. They're going to make a look now to turn number 1. He's going to take a peek to the inside, maybe a little bit of contact. He'll force him up the track, side by side. The outside lane, no. Christian Eckes going to hang on for the time being. The 27 loose, and Eckes is going to skate away with second.
That looked like his best opportunity. Beasley going to get sideways, and that will all but hand Christian Eckes, the number 2 position. Meanwhile, white flag is out for Ty Majeski. The driver of the number 60 Ford started up front, and he's able to close this one out. Final time at quarter number 4. Ty Majeski going to take the checkered flag from Richmond and win in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational.
Absolutely dominating performance by Ty there. Eckes, a valiant second, and Jay Beasley, not the position I think he wanted. I think he wanted that second place, but it didn't come to pass this time, Evan, but I think he'll be back here before too long. Garrett also, very good run in 4th, and Kyle Larson brings it home, P5.
Yeah, Garrett was able to pick up when he got sideways earlier in this race, got passed up by Kyle Larson. Larson then made a mistake of his own, and they once again exchanged what ended up being the 4th and 5th positions. And you can see the plus and minuses for those drivers. Sure, it sounds good if you're Kyle Larson to go plus 6 positions. He does end the night as well as our biggest mover tonight, a tip of the cap to Blake Cook, who started in 12th and ended up coming up in 8th position as well. But for Ty Majeski, Andy, if you start on a pole and you finish up front, I don't think there's many complaints that you can have.
No, there absolutely isn't. I really think that he wanted that 2 weeks ago at Iowa as well, too, but just a mistake of his own doing cost him that one last week. So he was able to stick on the pole, stay there, and really dominate this thing in fine fashion. So Ty Majeski, just another day in the iRacing service.
Let's take a look at your full race results for this second race on the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series tonight from Richmond Raceway. Ty Majeski takes home the win in convincing fashion, 6.5 seconds. And for the Christian Eckes, who makes a pass for P2, and was able to hold off Jay Beasley, who came home 3rd in a late race battle that basically went down to the wire in this one. Garrett Smithley, couple of mistakes, but he does get a solid 4th place finish tonight. And Kyle Larson racing with us this week, started way back in row number 6, but is able to come home with the top 5.
Rafael Lessard's going to finish 6th. 7th going to go to Ben Kennedy. 8th going to go to Blake Cook. 9th going to go to Myatt Snyder. And Todd Gilliland will round out your top 10.
Justin Allgaier will pick up a couple spots. He'll finish in the 11th spot. Gracie Trotter will finish 12th. 13th goes to Bubba Wallace. And Christopher Bell, last week's winner, is going to pull up 14th here tonight.
Look top to bottom at your iRacing Live full race results. You're able to see that we had a little bit over half of the field still round this sit out on the lead lap, but when it was all said and done, they were chasing the driver of the number 60 machine. Ty Majeski takes home the checkered flag tonight from Richmond, and we're down with the driver of that Ford Mustang. Ty, congratulations on this one. No doubt you have done this say once or twice, and you guys had the speed 2 weeks ago from Iowa, but this time around able to lock this thing up.
Yeah, it was a good run. Yeah, I was unfortunate at Iowa. I had to add a little, I had to get a little mini fan to prevent my computer from overheating. I just run on a little laptop when I'm here in Charlotte. So, but overall, it was a good race. We had really good speed. The setup was incredibly hard to drive. So everyone was kind of white knuckling it out there. Setup was really free all the way around. So you really had to tiptoe around the racetrack. Made a lot of fun for us drivers.
The iRacing service, obviously something that you are very well acquainted with. You have the highest I rating, and if anybody on this Senate, I know that it must be fun for you to be able to carry the iRacing colors on your super late model, as well as the opportunity you had to do that in the NASCAR XFINITY Series. Just comparing the two tracks that we've been at so far in this series, in particular, Iowa to Richmond, you've been fast on both. They're both short tracks. That's something that you do almost week in and week out. Maybe what was something that you picked up from this one compared to 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, first of all, like you said, iRacing's been a big supporter of mine, and I can't, I'll tell you what, it's really special to me. iRacing's been such a big part of progressing my career, and to carry their colors on my super late model and have them on the car for my Xfinity debut this year was really cool. As I said before, my computer had troubles overheating at Iowa, so I was basically losing frames per second. I went into turn 1. And next thing I knew, I was in the infield. So that was a little bit embarrassing, and I wasn't going to let that happen again. So I got a little mini fan here to blow some cool air underneath my laptop, so it all worked out.
And I think that just goes to show that a lot of guys have big setups, which are awesome. I have 3 screens that I would get nowhere near the times that you can put down on a laptop. So it's nice to see you back on the sim here, though, with us. Speaking of those opportunities that you've had with Roush on the NASCAR XFINITY Series side of things, what's next for you on that, on the real world side of racing?
Right now, we have 3 more ARCA races starting this weekend in Chicagoland, and then next week in Kentucky, and then in October in Kansas with the ARCA cars. So we're working on some more Xfinity races for the rest of this year. Nothing set in stone yet, but something we're working towards. And of course, I have my super late model program that I go back and race. We'll run a bunch of fall specials up in the Midwest and travel down south a little bit come December for the Snowball Derby. So really excited for the next few races we have in store. Really optimistic about them.
We'll let you take off, but again, congratulations. Anybody else that you want to say hi to? What we got you?
I just can't thank all you guys in iRacing and NASCAR for putting this on. This is pretty cool for us drivers to come and compete online like this, and I know it's been getting quite a bit of publicity, and just can't thank all you guys enough for all that. It definitely helps us drivers as well as you guys. So it's a win-win for everybody. We all really enjoy coming out here and competing. So thank you.
Well, it's always fun having you back on the Sim, Ty. Thanks for sticking around and chatting with us as well. Congratulations. Best of luck going forward with everything on the ARCA and Xfinity side of things, and maybe we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time over here.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Again, Ty Majeski is your winner tonight from Richmond Raceway, taking home the second race of this NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series. Again, coming up immediately following this, the NASCAR K&N Series, powered by iRacing. That gets kicked off at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock for those on the East Coast, 6 o'clock for those like me over on the West Coast of the United States. That'll be the 14th race from Chicagoland. That is coming up next, but before that, we've got a couple more drivers that we're going to have an opportunity to talk with, and I believe Andy Kessler may be down trackside with the driver who came home P2 tonight.
Yeah, that's right. I am down here with Christian Eckes, and Christian, you had a pretty good race here coming in second. You had a pretty good battle there, a whole race long. It looked like with that number 27. Talk about that one and how the track felt here over the course of this 40 laps.
Sir, but oh, you got me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it was a really cool race. You know, I can't thank iRacing enough for putting this on. You know, it's really cool to race all these big time drivers and stuff like that. You know, we had a pretty good race. You know, we got into a couple incidents there, and you know, tore the nose up a little bit, which gave us a little bit less speed, but we were still able to bring it home second, and you know, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun out there. Obviously, no cautions, keeps it going. You know, puts a little bit of trouble, puts you a little bit behind, but that car still looked pretty good with the damage that it had on there. You were able to at least make it a pretty good race there for that second spot and able to hang on to it as well. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun to come out here and race. You know, we all raced really hard and really clean, and it was just a really fun race for everybody.
Yeah, it definitely was. Well, 2017 racing season's getting close to coming to the end. What's on the schedule for you in the upcoming months here?
I finished my ARCA series racing last week, so we're done with that for the year. But you know, I still have a bunch of big super late model races coming up, and you know, it should be a lot of fun with my Fury Race Cars team, and we're just looking forward to the end of this year.
That's what it's all about, getting those all the races you can in towards the end of the season. But Christian, anybody you'd like to thank here before we let you go?
Yeah, just big thanks to Toyota Racing and everybody that let me run this race. You know, it was a lot of fun to come out here on Tuesday night and run with all these guys.
Well, it was a lot of fun to watch you out on the track as well. Hopefully we'll see you in a couple weeks, and wish you the best of luck the rest of the season.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So there you have it, Christian Eckes coming in second behind Ty Majeski. A little bit of damage, but still had a lot of speed in that car.
He's able to get a solid finish in this one, and I believe we're going to see if Cisco Scaramuza has an opportunity to chat with our third place finisher in this one. Jay Beasley was up towards the front for the most of it. Jay, you got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Well, hey, congratulations on the solid result in this race. I know that you guys start up front and you finish up front. It looked like you were very close to being able to get that second spot back at which you started, and it was a good fight between you and Eckes there for basically that whole second half of the race.
Yeah, that was fun. I was trying to save a little bit. He got by me. I just let him go. And then I tried getting by him, but I was too loose. But it was good racing.
Coming into this race tonight at Richmond Raceway in these Xfinity Series machines, obviously 40 laps, not a lot of time to get the job done, but you're somebody else who's well-versed with this iRacing service, and you looked pretty stable out there. I think the biggest that a lot of guys were struggling with was just losing that car coming off of the corner, and it looked like you had that part covered.
Yeah, I knew tire fall-off was going to be big, and iRacing has implemented that pretty good, so I knew I had to just be smooth with it and not get loose, don't get too excited, and couldn't get it done at the end. But yeah, first place Ty, he was in a whole nother zip code.
It was almost like he knew what he was doing up front there in his Ford. We'll let you get out of here, Jay. Before we do, though, want to give you a chance to say hi to anybody and as well talk a little bit about what you guys coming up for the rest of 2017 and into the future.
Yeah, my next race is New Jersey, so I actually hopped on there and been on iRacing testing, getting ready for that. I'll run there this Saturday, so I'm looking forward to that. And I just want to thank iRacing, having you guys invite me out. I appreciate it. This is a fun race. It's awesome to be a part of and race with some really good talent. And yeah, hopefully we can do it again. And everyone out there, subscribe, get iRacing, come and have some fun. And yeah, thank you guys for having me out.
And not that there's anything bad about getting that third place finish, but we hope to see you in 2 weeks' time, and you guys can look for redemption and try to build on that one. But again, thanks for spending time to be with us tonight and as well to chat with us. Congratulations on the solid result tonight, and hopefully we'll chat soon.
Yep, sounds good. Have a good night, guys. Thank you again.
That's the driver who came home third here tonight in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational. And Cisco, next race going to be coming up in 2 weeks' time for these guys. Our every other Tuesday is going to be a double feature, the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series, and followed by the NASCAR K&N Series powered by iRacing. So these guys will be back with us in 2 weeks' time on September the 26th. But Andy, we are not done yet right here on Race Spot TV and iRacing Live, because the playoffs for NASCAR's officially sanctioned esports series, the NASCAR K&N Series, is coming up in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and how about it? Round number 2 last 2 weeks ago, we saw Ray Alfalla pick up the victory at Darlington. He's secured into that one of the final 4 in Homestead. So we'll see if somebody else can get that job done here tonight at Chicago. Totally different track, so a mile and a half should be a lot of fun to watch.
And it is the second race of the playoffs. So if you have not been following along with the NASCAR K&N Series, I highly encourage you to stick with us. But until we see the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series return in 2 weeks' time, that does it so far for us here tonight from the Richmond Raceway. So on behalf of the entire team, for myself, Evan Pasocco, Cisco Scaramuza, and Andy Kessel, I want to thank you for tuning in to our coverage of tonight's NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series on iRacing Live, and we will be back at it with some of NASCAR's top stars in 2 weeks' time on September the 26th. You'll be able to find us then right here at iRacing.com/live with coverage kicking off at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That being said, we are far from done tonight as we get set for the NASCAR K&N Series powered by iRacing, NASCAR's officially sanctioned esports series, as they head into their 14th race on 2017 from Chicagoland Speedway. That race is right here next on Race Spot TV at iRacing Live, so don't touch the dial. We'll be right back on the other side. The NASCAR K&N Series powered by iRacing is the premier NASCAR esports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time NASCAR World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy, though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign, and as it has been for the 7 years prior, it is no longer going to be a straight shot to the championship. We are going to see the biggest change in this championship picture in series history, as for the first time ever, there will be a chase for the championship. We're going to go into the Homestead Miami Speedway at the end of the season with the 4 best oval sim racing drivers in the world absolutely tied in the championship. You just got to beat the other 3 guys out and you will become an official NASCAR champion. You're going to get yourself a NASCAR championship ring and, of course, $10,000. These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. You can catch it all season long, live coverage on iRacing.com/live. As the NASCAR K&N Series powered by iRacing headed into its first ever playoff bout this past week from the Darlington Raceway, it was none other than 3-time and defending series champion Ray Alfalla, who picked up not only his 3rd career win from the Lady in Black and 3rd on the season, but this win most importantly locks him into round 2 of the playoffs, which for the first time in series history will be a 4-driver winner-take-all finale from Homestead, Miami next month. The series now transitions into the 14th race on the year and the second of 3 in round 1 of the playoffs from Chicagoland Speedway, with the remaining 7 championship contenders vying for the remaining 3 transfer spots that stand between them and a shot at sim racing's grandest of titles. Rookies Ryan Luza, Bobby Zelensky, and Logan Clampitt sit above the cut line, whereas Zach Novak, Corey Vincent, Marcus Richardson, and Christian Challenger look to either points or win their way in the next 2 rounds. You can catch the next race of the NASCAR K&N Pro Series powered by iRacing playoffs this coming September the 12th, and every race on the road to Homestead on RaceSpot TV and iRacing.com/live. The road to $10,000 rolls through the Windy City, live tonight on RaceSpot TV and to iRacing Live. This is round number 14 of the 2017 NASCAR K&N Pro Series powered by iRacing. Happy to be with you tonight from the Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, Illinois. We say good evening and welcome to tonight's Chicagoland 250, the second of 3 races in the open round of the playoffs. And the team top side is ready to rock and or roll if necessary with you over the course of the night. Myself, Evan Pasoko, joined alongside by Tim Terry and Cam Walsh at a RaceSpot TV booth with our director Hugo Louise downstairs pushing the buttons and bringing us to you this evening. First and foremost, a big thanks to those who tuned in with us just a little while ago for the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series from Richmond, where we got to see some of NASCAR's rising stars take to the sim. But Tim, it's time to transition over to the guys who kind of do this thing week in and week out in a critical late season playoff race as we roll into Chicago.
Yeah, these guys are a little more accustomed to this. We're getting ready to go racing at Chicagoland, and as we mentioned, the playoffs are well underway. 7 drivers looking to lock themselves into Homestead. Ray Alfala's already done that, but now we've got 7 that are looking to join him, and, you know, a couple trying to get some points as well to maybe lock themselves in on the standings. This one is going to be exciting. It's not sure who's going to take away this one, but I'm sure we're going to find out. There's a number of these drivers that are going to be gunning for it.
And let's talk about what the championship picture Cam is coming into tonight. Again, 8 drivers in this opening round of the playoffs. 3 races to determine the 4 that will fight for a title at Homestead, Miami in a couple of weeks' time. Ray Alfala took home the checkered flag just 2 weeks ago from Darlington. He has locked in to the $10,000 winner-take-all finale in a little bit, so he's good to go. Ryan Luza, Bobby Zelensky, and Logan Clampitt by intervals of 20, 14, and 9 points are above the cut line. Zach Novak, on the other hand, along with Vincent, Richardson, and Challenger in the red, but not by a lot. Most of them, in fact, all of them really within 15 points, which is not impossible to make up in one, let alone the 2 races still to go. But I think what has to be at the forefront of the discussion is if any of those drivers in red gets a win, somebody that's currently above the cut line would get bumped.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think pressure is going to be a very important part here. Last season, we had a massive race between, of course, PJ Sturgis and Ray Alfala going all the way down to the wire, and that was very decisive in the championship, though it still ended up going to Ray Alfala, even though PJ won here. It's a bit of a different picture with so many other people involved in this series, in the playoffs now. And the points obviously going to be so very tight after only 1 round, but a couple of bad races and you can quickly find yourself out of the playoffs and outside of Homestead looking in.
And again, we come into this, the second race on this round of the playoffs. Things will also continue regardless of the results here tonight to the decided race at Dover in 2 weeks' time on the 26th. That one going to be a 200-lap event to close out these playoffs. Ray Alfalla is not here with us tonight, obviously located down in Florida, and with the hurricane just passing through, Ray is not in the race tonight, so I think it's extra helpful that he was able to get that checkered flag as of 2 weeks to go. He will be okay, and I believe that although the conventional ruling does say in the chase and the playoff rules that if you do win, you need to attend all the races, I believe that Ray Alfalla will be okay, circumstances considered. And what we talk about this race, drivers right now warming up to 5 minutes until we go trackside. Luza, somebody who right now is at a pretty good spot, he's fastest on the speed charts.
But when you look at those drivers in the playoff contention, Logan Clampitt sits fourth per se in that little standings of 8. He qualified P2 tonight. He's going to start on the outside of another driver that is also in that playoff contention. It's Zach Novak. So you have 2 drivers up at the front of the field that are trying to lock themselves into Homestead via a win and not necessarily having to worry about points. They're up top right now.
Had an opportunity a little bit earlier on today to chat with Logan Clampitt. He comes into tonight at the very last transfer spot on that playoff bubble. Coming into tonight 9 points ahead of Zach Novak for 4th in the championship. Here's what he had to say about tonight's race from Chicagoland Speedway. And we're here with Logan Clampitt. Logan, you guys are coming off of a good result to open up the playoffs just 2 weeks ago from the Darlington Raceway. You guys are headed into tonight in that final transfer spot. I know that still 2 races to go to determine if you guys can hang on to those top 4, but you come into tonight 9 points ahead of Zach Novak for that 4th and final spot in the points. Where's the confidence level for you guys right now?
We're pretty confident heading into especially this race. Chicago has always been one of my favorite tracks on the service, and I feel like our setup is really good for tonight, so I'm hoping to come out on top to just try and get myself locked in, but if not, just hoping for some top 5s to finish the night and hopefully come out ahead of Novak or Bobby or whoever and try and stay above 5th and try and stay above, 4th, 3rd, 2nd.
And well, you guys come into tonight and talking about the stats. You guys sit without a win so far this season. Everybody in front of you with the points has a win, and Zach Novak behind you in the points does as well. A win would give you that golden ticket straight to Homestead like Ray Alfalla got 2 weeks ago. Because you guys have had the good results, in fact, you with 6 top 5s this year is more than both Zelensky and Novak, who are above and below you in the points. Because of the way this season has gone for you, do you think that you guys are going to be focusing on, as you mentioned, the top 5s and trying to point your way in? Or would you be open to taking a gamble, maybe going for a win at a racetrack like Chicago tonight that you noted you're a fan of?
You obviously don't want to gamble too much because it could cost you, maybe a top 5 position or something. So you got to kind of be careful at the same time, trying to gamble, maybe like, short pit a couple laps or wait a couple more laps to pit after everyone else, or just it all depends. But for now, we're gonna try and go for top 5s, and we'll see where we're at the end of the race, and maybe we'll try and gamble. But if we're in a must-win situation for Dover, then we'll definitely gamble there and try and get ourselves a win and try and get into the top 4.
And as well, coming into this one, we're on a brand new iRacing build. This isn't something that you guys aren't familiar with. It's something that we have to adapt to in this series throughout the course of the year. But a big change that came in that new build last week was a modification to iRacing's dynamic track surface, which a lot of people are saying is going to make quite the difference. How much testing have you guys done with that, and what do you think that's going to change in this week's race as opposed to what we saw 2 weeks ago?
There's not much testing you can do in like a single car test session, hosted session or whatever while you're testing with your team, but I did the A Open last night, and it definitely has an effect, especially on, half the field size of the end pass race. So it'll definitely be interesting tonight how the dynamic tracks will play out, and hopefully it won't be too bad, but we'll just see if our setup will be in favor for it, and hopefully we'll be pretty good for tonight.
Well, you guys are sitting to where you want to be at the moment, and that is inside of the top 4. Logan, we'll let you get out of here. Best of luck tonight.
Thank you.
So that's what Logan Clampitt had to say a little bit earlier tonight, just a minute away. And one thing that we brought up in that I think we need to touch on, Tim, is this new iRacing build. It's something that happens throughout the year on a scheduled basis, and these drivers are used to adapting to that. But it was a pretty big change just 1 week ago with iRacing updating its dynamic track surfaces. It, according to many drivers, puts a lot more wear on the track, and you're going to see that line working over the course of the race, maybe offering up a lot more multi-groove racing. So a lot of testing has gone into figuring that out over the last couple of days too.
And you mentioned that testing and mentioned the time. These teams and these drivers that put in the most testing and learned the most here in the last 7 days or so might end up near the front of the field. That's usually how it works in stock car racing, whatever level that you're at. And we'll see what happens here as these guys get the checkered flag on the happy hour session. We're getting ready to go racing at Chicagoland.
Warm-up session drawing to a close, and we are set to go racing for 167 laps. That'll equate to 250 miles over the course of the night. It is the third to last race already on this 2017 campaign, and as we stressed to you 2 weeks ago at Darlington, it what I thought was the most critical race in series history, being the first of the playoffs. Now that we have a little bit of an idea of our championship picture, and one of the 4 slots has been filled up, that means only 3 more drivers have an opportunity to punch that golden ticket to Homestead, and we will see if somebody on the playoff grid is able to do it here tonight from Chicago. So let's go trackside and take a look at your RaceSpot TV starting grid for round number 14 of the season. Zach Novak going to qualify on pole, despite the fact that he was 34th in the warm-up. His 28.399 was by far and large the best time at qualifying, and he will start from pole position tonight, and he will be joined by Logan Clampitt on the front row. Dylan Duvall will start tonight in 3rd position, with Derek Bordeaux rolling off at a P4. Just behind them, Cody Bias is 5th.
There's another championship contender in Ryan Luza rolling off 6th. Kenny Humpy 7th. 8th is Blake Reynolds. Bobby Zielinski trying to wrap up a win in 9th. And David Rattler completes your top 10.
And Nolan Scott starts in the 11th position. Alan Bowes outside him in 12th. Michael Conti will start 13th. Corey Vincent in 14th. Andrew Fash in 3rd and 15th. Mitchell Hunt will start 16th. Jake Sturgis 17th. Marcus Richardson 18th. Joe Letterillo in 19th position. And Chris Overland in 20th.
Continuing through, Casey Tucker will start tonight 21st, and Philip Diaz in 22nd. Jimmy Mullis 23rd, Chris Shearburn 24th, Nick Ottinger in 25th, with Taylor Hirsch, Chandler Krizik, Byron Daly, Will Cooley, and Michael J. Johnson through 30th.
Completing your field includes Christian Chalner, Brad Davies, Jake Nichols, Brian Schoenberg, Brian Blackford, Alex Bergeron, Adam Gilliland, Timmy Hill, Tyler Hill, Ryan Lowe, and Matt Busa, P41. That completes your field. And Evan, there's a lot of big names back there outside the top 30.
There's a lot of big names inside of the top 5, and there's a lot outside of the top 35. We will see how this race plays out, but as always, we're happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us at RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. The pace car going to make the sharp left-hand turn down to the safety of the pit lane. Let's go playoff race it again tonight from the Chicagoland Speedway. Zach Novak comes into tonight in the red. Does he punch his ticket to Homestead? Green flag flies, and we're off and away.
And a clean start by the 15 is Zach Novak. Novak will go to the lead by 2 lengths over the 44 of Logan Clampitt. Clampitt falls in the line to second. Still side by side behind them off the start. It's Dylan Duvall to the inside and Derek Bordeaux to the outside. Bordeaux had a great start to the season, looking to finish it off strong as he tries to go to the outside of the 42.
And he does ride that outside line down in quarters 3 and 4. The 42, though, going to get an upper hand as these guys almost all the way down on the throttle for this first time around the racetrack. And Duvall going to be able to get that spot at the line, interject Ryan Luza into the fight. He'll go to the inside and get the 04 as well. So Derek Bordeaux, instead of picking up a spot, will drop 2 in that exchange. And he's not clear yet. Cody Bias peeking to the inside, not going to happen that time.
No, not just yet for the lead. They're still going side by side through 3 and 4. Is stuck on the outside well in the back in position number 10. Blake Reynolds, David Rattler, and the car of Alan Bowes. They've been stuck on that outside all since the start of this race. And Logan Clampitt, he'll push his way up to the front of the race, and he will start lap number 3 in the first position, probably exactly where he wants to be at this current point.
The drivers who run 1-2 right now, 4th and 5th now in the championship, respectively speaking, would be a big difference between if either or of those drivers parks in a victory lane. Sure, points are good for either or of them, but that Novak needs to find a little bit extra, pick up maybe 9 points. It's the deficit that he sits at into tonight. If you're not already familiar with the drivers battling in this NASCAR K&N Series playoff, not only are they going to have that blue peak windshield banner on the front of their cars, but their name is also going to be blue at the top of your screen, so you can follow those championship competitors over the course of tonight. Right now, 1 and 2 drivers battling for that title.
And Novak got a great launch down into corner number 3, closed up a little bit on Logan Clampitt, but Clampitt gets a run off corner number 4. He will lead lap number 4. About a half second back to Dylan Duval in position number 3, who's trying to hold off Ryan Luzit. There's another one of our championship contenders in car number 1. Goes to the outside, tries to get this run off of corner number 2, the 42 to the inside, and there goes Luzit to the outside. They are even down the back straightaway. The 1 trying to hold it and trying to take position number 3.
And something that makes Chicago so unique is you see that 1 now complete the move on the outside of the racetrack and move Luza up to 3rd very diligently, working his way through the field after starting 6th. He's already up inside of the top 3, but Chicago is such a unique racetrack, Cam, because of the curvature on the back straightaway. It's not very extreme, but I don't think there's any point on this racetrack in which that wheel really goes straight up and down. It eases the corner exit a little bit, and it also helps a little bit working into turn 3.
Yeah, plus you don't have that chute at the exit of 2 where everyone has to straighten out real quick. Plus you'll also see going past the start-finish line, some of the cars will duck way below what would be considered the apron. That's completely legal here because that's just how the track blends, and it seems to work out fairly well, I think, as the race goes later on. But right now I think that outside seems to be, at least for now, holding out and warming up. Is I think right now 42 cars going on this track. It's going to warm this track up pretty quick. We're going to get the rubber down. I think we're going to see some that outside line start coming into play. I see Michael Conti, he's sticking himself way up there, but he's all the way up in position number 9. Everyone in front of that, though, is sticking pretty low.
And we've been used to, as rubber gets put down on the racetrack, the racing groove expanding over the course of the season. But again, the unknown is how is the new track surface and a dynamic track system going to work off of this latest iRacing build with a 41-car field. Drivers have been practicing, and I think the best bet they may have had to get a good look at it would maybe just be in full-scale official racing. But in team practices, you're not going to get that full effect with 4 to 3 cars out there on the racetrack. And right now, we got great stuff going on up towards the front of the field. You got Ryan Luza in first, Dylan Duval in the number 2 spot in his fight for 3rd on back. You got Baez, Bordeaux, and Zelensky. Everybody nice and tightly packed together in top 10.
And the great thing about this battle right now, the 27 of Cody Baez has been running the 2nd groove around this racetrack, or at least a little bit higher than the 1 of Ryan Luz and the 42 of Dylan Duval. They tuck up tight in the draft going through 3 and 4 now, but the 27 has been trying to go up high, leaving the door open for Bordeaux, but Bordeaux hasn't been able to make the pass on that inside line, so that might be track wearing in a little bit here. There goes the 04 again. You see the 27 go to the 2nd groove. The 04 tries to get to the inside, bringing Zelensky along with him, but just can't seem to get the run through 1 and 2 to make it happen.
And if somebody in this group makes a small mistake, it's going to be very easy for somebody to pounce on him. Look at the drivers way down on the bottom, and then look at Michael Conti in that 5, the peak forward, a completely different line through the quarter, and it appeared to work that time. He'll power to the outside of the 83 of Zelensky, and they'll dance side by side for 7th spot. Now, more drivers taking the high line down at this end of the racetrack, down in turns 1 and 2, than they did in 3 and 4, and Conti going to complete the pass on the top side, and I think Kenny Humpy likes that call. He'll go top side as well and also get around Zelensky, so he'll drop 2 spots down to 9.
Zelensky's holding on to the bottom for right now, but I wouldn't be too surprised if he sneaks himself right on up to the top and starts sticking his way up there. Also a good battle right now between Marcus Richardson and Corey Vincent for what would be 13th position. They find themselves in battling with 2 non-chase contenders, Nolan Scott and Alan Bowes, as the playoff battle is as intense as they could be back down here. As Marcus Richardson, he's been defending from Corey Vincent these last couple of laps, and he's sort of muscled his way around a couple laps ago, and they've been kind of almost getting very, very close to door, which is surprising for lap number 12 of 167. Richardson gets a little loose. Corey Vincent, though, should have the run on the outside. We'll see this battle continuing on between 2 chase contenders.
And obviously, wherever they are in the field, any fight going to be critical. Obviously, we do have, all 41 drivers who started this race running on the lead lap at the moment. It has been a very clean and green start so far from the Chicagoland Speedway. Just an update on the top two. They are about a second in front of the group of Lusa, Duval, and Friends, third, fourth on the back, but Novak is keeping Clampitt honest. Up at the front of the field, it's only about a 4-car length difference between those two. Again, Clampitt took the race lead over just at lap number 3. Novak already running a different line, so we're seeing that really throughout the field. Drivers searching high and low to find the best way around.
And Zach Novak, the last time through 3 and 4, we'll see if he does it here down into corner 3 and 4. He was taking a really higher line. He's back down low. I think he might have missed 3 and 4 the last time by Evan and lost a little bit of time, but when he's on it like he was on that lap, he's going to close in on Logan Clampitt. He indeed does this time. It's just less than 0.2 of a second now between Clampitt and Novak up in front. There goes Novak to the outside line, trying to do the same thing through 1 and 2.
Yeah, they keep adjusting their lines. The last time by, Novak was on the top, but Clampitt was on the bottom. So maybe the 44's looking in the rearview mirror, seeing that the 15's taking a different line, and it has been working. And maybe tried to change up his line a little bit. Didn't really help him out much because that is down to a car length differential in the battle for the race lead. 15 laps now complete, still early on tonight from Chicagoland. Now the 15's going to go to the bottom, so Clampitt came up, took away his line cam, and now the 15 will go to the inside of the racetrack. Novak trying to get air to the nose of that car, trying to find a way around the 44, can't do it that time.
No, not that time, but he'll stick way to the high side. So both of these guys are trying really the highs and the lows around the Chicagoland Speedway, and they're really not finding anything too different. The lap times have been very similar, and there you see Zach Novak almost mowing the lawn as he'll slide in right behind the Chevrolet of Logan Clampitt as they're going into 1 and 2 one more time. I've noticed Ryan Michael Lusa also doing the same. Pretty much everyone in your top 10 is really searching for any type of grip, and because of that, I almost wonder if they're delaying the putting down that rubber because they're taking so many different lines. It's going to take a little bit longer to get the track rubbered in. But either way, Zach Novak, he's searching high, he's searching low, but he has yet to find any weakness in where Logan Clampitt's running.
And I think that one machine may be onto something because it was, for the longest time, a spirited battle for third, fourth on back, but Lusa has been able to pull some ground on Dylan Duval. The 42 is still there. Bias not all that far out of the back end. Your top 5 cars are only separated by 1.2 seconds. Pretty good for 18 laps of green flag racing so far, but Lusa is starting to walk in on the 15 little by little, and we saw the aggressive move down to the apron by the 15 to Novak. He's not going to do it this time. That apron is oftentimes an option at these tri or quad oval racetracks, but it's quite the bump and their transition, I would say, down from the banking to the flat there on the front straightaway at Chicago, more so than some other tracks that you'll see that move more common, and I think maybe that's why the 15 refraining from hitting it every single time.
Yeah, it upsets the car a little bit on that transition. Those top 2 continue to go at it, about 2 lengths in between them. Keeping my half eye on Michael Conti and Kenny Humpy coming through the field as well. They've made the pass on Blake Reynolds. Reynolds closing back up to the 58. And as you look through the top 10 or so, Evan, that looks to be maybe the closest battle on the racetrack right now, at least in that top 10. Zielinski has fallen back a few spots into position number 10, and obviously still early in this race, but everybody seems to want to find a place to run right now and get some green flag laps in. This time by will be 20 laps completed, and Logan Clampitt continues to lead this thing.
And the fighting continues to go on throughout the pack cam. The battling we were talking about a little bit ago. Vincent Richardson still very much on there, side by side, in a fight for 13th position. Now, this is a little over 4 seconds off for the guys up front, but a spirited battle nonetheless, because you've got the 21 Bose right up there, the 16 Nolan Scott, and even that 77 Andrew Fayaz, who had a spectacular qualifying effort, we should note, after starting 15th position. He's right up on the back of the 01. So, although those are championship competitors and everybody around them is aware of that, definitely nobody pulling over to get out of their way. It is a hornet's nest here outside of the top 10.
Yeah, you pretty much get to the rear of Bobby Zelensky, and these guys are running 37s, 32nd .7s, and then you get back just a little bit way down the track in the 11th position. Lap times are coming in just a little bit slower, almost peaking into the .8s, and these guys, they get a little single file through the backstretch, and then they go right back into swarming. You'll see people picking high and low, and it's only going to be a matter of time before one of these times they try to get single file and find that they're actually door-to-door. Richardson comes right on up, tries to pinch off Alan Bose, but doesn't work here as the battle's continuing to keep on going back here. I also see Joe Letterello, Chris Overland side by side. It's actually really a 2x2 between Nick Ottinger and Jake Sturgis as well. So battling going on all throughout the Chicagoland Speedway track outside the top 10.
They are still side by side. I mean, you got Bose up at the outside of the own of Richardson, and I have a feeling this is going to continue for some time. It's that middle part of the pack, no doubt, between, I'd say, around the 15th and the 20th positions or so, where you do see a lot more side by side prolonged because they get a little bit backed up at a restart. It's harder to work through traffic. But obviously, this first run in the race is critical. You do have drivers who, we noted it with the driver who started on pole. Zach Novak did not have a good time in warm-up, was 34th. But started on P1 in this race. You have drivers that may have a little bit of a better race car underneath them as opposed to a Q car, and it is this opening stint in the race where you're going to have a lot of shuffling out until these guys, I think, can really find where they will be in line for the majority of the evening.
And a lot of these drivers are going to come on the long run compared to the short run as the 77 of Fay Ash continues to be side by side with the 21 of Bose. Marcus Richardson pulls away from this battle. Corey Vincent on the outside. David Rattler a part of this battle as well. The 09 gets a great run at a corner number 2. Little sideways on the outside for Alan Bose. The inside line pulls even. Great little tilt back there for position number 13 as they continue to run around this racetrack. Logan Clampitt had built a little bit of a lead and continues to pull away a little bit from Zach Novak. He tacked on about a 10th that last time by. Luza continues to run in position number 3 as he puts a lap on Adam Gilliland, car number 8 going a lap down here early.
First driver tonight to go a lap down, started back in 37th position, but did have top 20 speeds earlier on in the night. I have a feeling that the damage on the front end of that number 8 Chevrolet may be a reason why it is slow at the moment, and he's doing a good job of sticking high and letting your lead lap cars work that preferred lane on the bottom, as now Dylan Duvall is able to get on through and clear of him. Maybe a challenge to up for 6th, and here it goes. It's going to be for 7th. Michael Conti, top side, and a Kenny Humpy way down to the bottom. The left side tires were on that white line in the center of the quarter, was able to get even off, but that run off the top side clears Conti to turn number 3. He'll once again go for the top. The 58, the one getting creative, trying to make the bottom work. You're going to use up those tires a little bit more if you're running that lower line as the 58 tries to find a way through, still unsuccessful.
Nobody commits to the apron that time by, but interesting to note just how quick Blake Reynolds and Bobby Zelensky were able to catch up. They seem to, it looked like Conti and Humpy had a little bit of a gap, but it quickly evaporates as soon as they actually get to the straights. I think it's because every single time that inside line might let off a little bit to suck up behind and get into single file before splitting off onto their angles. And just look at how differential it's getting between the high side and the low side. The high side almost looking like Darlington 2 weeks ago, and the low side looking like what you would normally see on a mile and a half. But it's interesting to see. I think that's why Chicagoland always ends up giving us good racing, as the 66 car is something going on with them.
And Blake Reynolds running P10 right now. He's got a front row seat to the fight. Bobby Zelensky inside and Kenny Humpy outside. If you want to include the 5 Michigan Conti in this, which Humpy was trying to get at a little bit ago, you could call it a 4-way battle for position, but it looks like that 5 has been able to clear some of this chaos by a little bit, and in fact everybody will single file this one out as of the last time by, but it was Blake Reynolds trying to make up for some positions lost. He's back 2 spots compared to 8th position where he started, running right now in P10 as the 83 of Zelensky. Interestingly enough, when Humpy was trying to get around Conti, he was diving to the inside and it wasn't sticking, and now that the 83 gets up to the 58, Humpy runs the regular line, and it's Zelensky diving it down to the inside. He'll go on hold for a moment. Lap traffic to occupy the top of the racetrack as that 8 machine continues to slowly drop back 1 lap off of the leaders. But other than that, a lot going on. Still top 10 and now 31 laps into the opening run.
And this battle has been quite entertaining, and Blake Reynolds is going to lose a top 10 position to the Nolan Scott, number 16. And here comes Marcus Richardson in the 0-1 car. Richardson, one of those drivers in the playoffs and looking to pick up a win or at least some points that'll try to guarantee him a spot into that finale at the Homestead Miami Speedway. He goes to the outside of Blake Reynolds. He picks up one spot and darts right down to the apron. So he'll move to position number 11 and will dispatch Blake Reynolds back to 12th. And Reynolds falling like a stone, the 77 and the 09. It's Fayash and Rattler trying to catch up to the 66 as Adam Gilliland is side by side, or was side by side with the 01 at Richardson. He'll fall back in behind.
And down pit road this time, lap number 32, Schoenberg is going to be coming down pit road. And as well, Corey Vincent headed to the pit lane. So, working our way towards what can undeniably classified as a long green flag stretch, we may be getting an idea on just how far on the tires these drivers are willing to push things. At least for your race leader, Logan Clampitt, his best lap was a 28.8. The last time by, a 39. So, about 2 seconds of fall off so far. More drivers talking about pit road. Richardson, Overland, and more. Taking a look up front, Logan Clampitt will pit from the race lead.
Yeah, it looks to me like Corey Vincent might have got the undercut on everybody. Your first chase car, your first playoff car to get into the pit lane, as well as Mitchell Hunt and a couple of other cars further in the back. And then here comes the mob coming down pit lane, down to 50 miles an hour. Zelensky seems to lead them right now. We'll see exactly where everyone manages to get themselves out. I'm pretty sure, though, Logan Clampitt, with his pit stall up front, the lead gap that he had, will probably get off before everybody else, unless something goes wrong.
Zach Novak, who assumed the race lead after we saw Clampitt come down to the pit lane in no rush to pit quite yet. He will stay out. Meanwhile, Luza is down pit road. You're going to get a second look at Bose get it into the wall in just a moment. But Luza, he was nice and clean onto the pit lane. Michael Conti also coming down pit road. You've got Nolan Scott down here on the 16 of the sheet as well. So a handful of drivers pitting this time. And you got a mix of drivers coming in and coming out. Not only can pit road be a treacherous place, but out on the racetrack can be very dicey times when you've got fast cars on new tires and old tires trying to limp to pit road out on the racetrack at once. Zach Novak, though, likes the fresh air. He's back out in front and continues to stay out.
Yeah, the top three stay out on the racetrack. Bias, Duval, and Kenny Humpy. Some of the teammates also staying out on the racetrack. And we'll see what plays out with this strategy. But the last 10 laps or so before Clampitt came down pit road, it looked like he was the class of the field compared to Novak and some of those behind. He was pulling away from the rest of the field, and especially Novak up in front, had the gap to almost a second before he peeled onto pit road. Novak stays out on the racetrack. Cody Bias, Dylan Duval, some of those, the team drivers, going to stay on the racetrack as well, trying to extend this run.
And obviously the short pit, I think, is the call that most guys would like to go with. Diaz, somebody who's just working off of the pit lane right now, and the gamble that you take with the short pit or the early pit is that you go a lap down. We're only showing 11 drivers on the lead lap right now. 12th position through 39th are one lap down. If a yellow were to come out at the middle of a second green flag service, which we've seen a couple of times this season, it really bites those guys that have pitted, and it really benefits those who stay out, which is why you tend to see drivers towards the back of the pack stay out a little bit longer. The likes of really fifth on a back on track right now. Fayash, who started 15th. Mullis, who started 23rd. You got Sherburne from 24th. Cooley from 29th, and etc. Those are the guys who could maybe risk a little bit more of a gamble, hoping that this falls in their favor. But I find it a little bit surprising. Zach Novak from P2, who's now your race leader, continues to stay out. You just saw Logan Clampitt go by him on fresh tires. That's how big a difference is of about 30 lap old tires.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite understand it unless he's depending on a caution or alternatively running to a fuel number, which is the likely story. But Logan Clampitt, he's just unlapped himself, and well, it's when you're only running 30-second laps and you're running 3 seconds a lap, you don't need to be a mathematician to figure out it's not going to be very long before Logan Clampitt starts catching him. And you can already see he's already left him in the dust. A 29.3 that last time by for Clampitt. Meanwhile, a 31.2 for Zach Novak. So I'm sure Novak is running to a fuel number. I mean, he must be at this point trying to maybe eliminate a pit stop or at least allowing himself some comfort further down the road.
Cody Bias over the radio this time says that he will be coming down pit road. Dylan Duvall agrees with the call, so second and third are going to come down pit road. Novak continues to stay out. Chris Shearburn says also he will be pitting. Looks like Fayash will stay out at least one more time around. Kenny Humpy is going to come down to the pit lane, and it is a relatively quick cycle to green flag surface we are getting through. We didn't see anybody down pit road as of 10 laps ago, and now we're down to maybe just a handful who have yet to pit. And just as I say that, Zach Novak cues up on radio, tells the team that he is headed down pit road at lap number 41. In comparison, Logan Clampitt pitted for the race lead 8 laps ago at lap 33.
So the 15 car will peel on to pit road. Andrew Fayash, the third, will stay out on the racetrack. Should be your leader this time and pick up that point for leading a lap. Jimmy Mullis was also on the racetrack, but he will head down to pit road to get service on his car. So it looks like, for the most part, this cycle of green flag pit stops really coming around. Fayash still on the racetrack. We should see him down this time by, which should put the lead close to it being back to Logan Clampitt in the 44 scored that last time by, in position number 4, 17 seconds behind your leader, Fayash.
So let's watch as Zach Novak comes out of the pit lane and kind of spot him with Logan Clampitt. Logan Clampitt already headed down the back straightaway. The number 15 machine just now exiting through quarters 1 and 2. And you're talking about 2 seconds per lap or so. Fayash is in as well, which may complete almost all of our pit cycles, maybe with the exception of the 12 of Bergeron, who is going to assume the race lead, and Logan Clampitt is going to be back up to second as of this time by. So almost full circle in this one, and it is that 44 Chevrolet back out in front. But even Clampitt, look at the 48 coming up on him and Chandler Krizik. Even the 44, your race leader, slower than drivers who just recently pitted. So the flip side of the staying out strategy is you're going to lose a lot of time to begin with, but you'll be faster on the end of the long run. We'll see if that maybe plays a factor later on, or if maybe Novak's got a different number of how many times he wants to head down pit road in the back of his mind. We're clean and green through quarter distance.
Yeah, but we almost had something interesting to note. Alex Bergeron, I believe he tried to make it to pit lane, but unfortunately so many fast cars were on his inside. He tried to slow up. He actually topped the outside wall. I think he's going to have to go around one more time before he finds himself in pit lane. But either way, yeah, look at how loose Alex Bergeron's number 12 is getting. He's actually staying out still, but the rears are starting to get mighty loose on that number 12 machine, while cars are absolutely zipping by. He's running 32s. Everyone else is running 29.8s.
He has obviously found the consistency up front, and again, just for comparison's sake, Zach Novak is now 25th position on the racetrack, the driver who started this race on the pole position. That puts him 16 seconds behind Logan Clampitt. Sure, Clampitt was in front of him, Tim, before the pit stops began, but it was maybe a couple of tenths. So that just goes to show you how big of a difference 8 laps could be in a pit strategy, and 16 seconds does basically work out to those 2 seconds per lap that we were kind of alluding to.
And as Logan Clampitt makes his way around here, the last time by for Clampitt at 29.98, Novak was a 29.62. So yes, he is making up some time, but maybe not as much as he might have thought he was going to be making up as he battles side by side with car number 39 of Michael Johnson. Johnson on the lead lap. That is for position, and it's for about 23rd place or so as Zach Novak works his way underneath. So Logan Clampitt is still your leader this time by. Zach Novak will come across the stripe, albeit he was in traffic. It was a 29.67 by the looks of it on the lap time. Logan Clampitt up in front with a 30.1. So yes, a little bit faster, but not necessarily as fast as one would think. So if this thing goes green the rest of the way, does maybe Logan Clampitt have to make one more pit stop? Maybe they can eliminate one pit stop on Novak's strategy. That's why we're up here, I guess, and not on the pit box, right?
I think it's a fair point that if you're going to lose 2 seconds per lap, but then only pick up 3 per when you get back out onto the pit lane, it may not be the best call. But again, I have to wonder, Zach Novak was able to go 8 laps more, and it took us to quarter distance. So if just the basic math says that that's going to be 3 trips down to the pit lane, if he can go 8 laps, then he can, if he goes 16 laps and further, not going to matter. Caution, spinner down the back straightaway. Problems with Brian Blackford in the number 22 machine. Spinning at a turn 2, he was running in the number 7 spot, and a yellow flag comes out. That is not good news for Zach Novak's call, as we'll get a second look at this one with contact between the 22 and the 66.
Yeah, it's 22 is running the outside line. Blake Reynolds was on his inside with Cody Bias in pursuit. Blake Reynolds just slid a little bit up the track. He straightened out a little bit and tapped Brian Blackford. It was the simplest of taps, and he managed to loop that number 22 around almost in a perfect 360, and he got it started again, but obviously reached for that big yellow button. And then we are now under our first caution after 48 laps of running and 1 full green flag pit stop. I'm pretty confident, though, everybody is coming down pit road.
And that'll obviously take away from the can you eliminate a pit stop from the strategy game, because everybody is down pit road, including Logan Clampitt, who decided to pit at lap 33 in first, and Zach Novak, who pitted at lap 41 in 20th position. Everybody going to be to even keen. You might see a little bit of a difference here on pit road between 2 and 4 tires, but Clampitt is down at the pit lane, and he has the advantage of having one of those final pit stalls. Looks like he's not only going to go with fuel, but he will make a 4-tire call. So Clampitt going to go with left and right sides. Race off of pit road was close. Luza and Conti right there, but 44 will maintain control.
Yeah, the top 3 exiting just the way they came in was Zielinski, and it looks like Bordeaux, your top 5 behind them, and looks like status quo for most of these guys. I'm seeing Nick Ottinger coming out from the top 10 off of pit road. He came in a little bit deeper in the field, so maybe he took some strategy, but nevertheless, most of those guys near the front of the field, Evan, coming out where they were, with Logan Clampitt leading. Now, I'm interested to see on this next green flag run. Obviously, the 15 of Zach Novak has a really quick race car. They waited a little while longer. Maybe they were thinking of a green flag run coming through, and maybe the strategy working out. I know it is early in this race. We've still got 2/3 of the race to go, but do you throw a Hail Mary now?
Just saw a couple more drivers come back down to the pit lane, but it appears that Andrew Fayash in that number 77 machine will stay out and go to the race lead. And as we noted, he was one of the drivers who had just recently come down to the pit lane. He stayed out much longer than the average, pitted between, rather, I guess, completing lap 42 is a better way to say it, and coming to take lap number 43. So he was on pit road only laps before the yellow flag came out. I think there's no doubt that this strategy call is going to put him at a disadvantage tire-wise, especially because Clampitt, Luza, Conti, and everybody else went with 4 tires. I think he might stand a better chance if somebody went with 2, but it's not a terrible call, Cam, as long as Andrew Fayash doesn't fall below where he was running before. Then I guess it's all a net win again. And for him as well, he was on the same call as Novak almost lap for lap, so he was much deeper in the pack than where he started in 15th. So I like this call, courtesy of the 77.
Well, not only that, we have to remember the caution came out a couple of laps ago, so he's got 8 laps on his tires, so really he's only got about 5 laps on them, and actually he'll sift on down to the apron. Is that he's coming down to pit lane, or is that just might be saving some fuel? And I'm not quite sure. He's still not dedicated to it one way or another. No, he's staying to the inside of the apron, way past the commitment cone. But either way, though, interesting to see here. He's got his strategy. He wants to stick on to it, and we'll see what happens as they go across the start-finish line and the pace car lights go out.
We get set to go back under green flag racing conditions. We'll have 52 laps complete from Joliet, Illinois. So just past, as we noted, quarter distance in tonight's Chicagoland 250. The opening portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Peak Antifreeze and Coolant, the official antifreeze of NASCAR and a proud sponsor of the NASCAR K&N Series, powered by iRacing. So reset button, Fayash in control, Clampitt goes to second, and Luza will restart third. Does the 1 get stuck behind the 77, who tries to find the grip but get going under the restart conditions, or does the 44 at Clampitt being forced out to the outside now in second maybe open up the door for somebody back on the second or third rows to make a move to the inside of the racetrack and try to do something with them? Nonetheless, this race has moved at a very quick pace early on, just on the doorstep of 115 laps to go as we get set to go back green flag racing from Chicagoland. Can Andrew Fayash pull out the strategy call and get in front, or the 44 and the 1 eat him up off of the restart? Pace car down and in into the restart box. American Ethanol green flag as we go back at it. Clampitt on the best start, but the 1 missed the shift.
Yeah, the one car falling like a stone on the inside. Zielinski after the line goes to the inside. We're 3 wide down into corner number 1. Zielinski trying to make it happen, but Luza will get the run in the middle lane. Bordeaux falls out, and up in front, Bayash goes high. Here comes Logan Clampitt to the inside, and Michael Conti following him through in the peak number 5.
So Clampitt is going to end up in front of it all, but it was the 5 of Conti who was able to get around Luza. Now we watch how far does the 77 drop back like a fish out of water. They are only 8-lap-old tires, to be fair, but they are still old tires. Zielinski going to get by. The 04 of Bordeaux to the inside. Here comes Richardson. Here comes Vincent, and it is going to be a freight train on that inside.
Now, as long as he can slot in somewhere, he'll still have a net gain of probably 5, 6, 7, 8 positions. So for Andrew Fayash, he might have been counting on perhaps another quick caution. Yellows do breed cautions, but you know what, though? With how much room we have here at Chicagoland Speedway, I don't think yellows are that familiar of a thing. Ryan Michael Luza, he's already dipped into the apron. He's got his new tires. He wants to get them used. He wants to see if he can catch Logan Clampitt. And in between Logan Clampitt and Luza is Michael Conti, so a non-playoff contender sitting right there in second position. I have a feeling, though, Michael Conti, he is going to want to take the W here at Chicagoland.
And we most certainly see these drivers really starting to spread out off of these restarts. 2 and 3 lanes being utilized side by side for a second. Here comes Luza trying to get that spot back. It had looked like off of the restart, Tim, that he was going to have a great go at it. Clampitt didn't have the best restart on that outside. The one was pulling even with him, and it all of a sudden was very slow. I think he missed a shift on that. It didn't look like tire spin, and that ended up costing him 2 spots. That's how Conti was able to get up in front of him, and I can promise you that that number 5 Ford is not going to let him by without a fight.
But now that number 1, as you mentioned, on that restart is going to be determined even more to trying to get back up to the front of the field. Goes all the way down to the grass on the front straightaway, and he'll look at the number 5 of Michael Conti for position number 2. Got that great run down into corner number 1. The 5 lets him have the inside line, kind of baits him to that inside line, lets him have the room to operate, but the 5 gets the run at a corner number 2 on that outside line. He'll maintain that spot. Logan Clampitt trying to drive away from these two as Michael Luza dives it down to the inside, trying to take position number 2 away, drifts off the racetrack and back all the way down to the grass in the front straightaway.
And that's all the way down. Left side tires right on the edge of it. They'll stay side by side. It's good news for Logan Clampitt. The longer this goes on, the 44 is going to have a better opportunity to try to stretch out what is only a 4/10 of a second advantage once more. Again, though, inside works into the corner. And Chicagoland, not a racetrack that's banked incredibly like some of the higher speed 1.5 mile intermediate racetracks like in Atlanta or a Texas, but still 18 degrees cam is plenty on the top for Conti to be able to wind it up and get that great run coming off each and every time to stay in front.
Yeah, especially when it is continuous pretty much around the entirety of the circuit. We'll note here, as Luza, he seems to be falling back just a little bit. His lap times are right on par, at least they were until that last lap with Logan Clampitt, but unfortunately with that car in front of him, just not able to capitalize on it. I will say, the battle between Marcus Richardson and Corey Vincent hasn't cooled off one bit. They are still together, but they have cleared about 4 or 5 different non-playoff cars, so now you've got an absolute boatload of playoff contenders sitting in your top 10, and I'm sure once Richardson and Vincent catches the rear of Derek Bordeaux, who just missed the cut, I'm sure he's going to want to race them hard, but once they start getting there, we're going to have a very big battle on our hands, but not just that, but a very risky battle. If there's a single incident up here that clunks a couple of cars, we're looking at a massive shift in the points, but hopefully we can avoid that.
Something else that we're seeing, and we saw this on the first run as well, is there's not a lot of separation. Sure, we're single file inside of the top 10. You do see drivers continue to work different lines. The 04 down to the inside. Richardson following Bordeaux. Meanwhile, Luza, Zielinski want to ride that lane that's about a car length and change up off of the outside wall, but it's still nice and condensed. The top 7 cars within 1.5 seconds of each other. So even if it's not an incident, something as just simple as a mistake, somebody gets loose, somebody catches the fence, you're so tightly packed up front that maybe somebody behind you kind of can't get out of the way and gets into you, or just simply a mistake would have cost you a lot of spots. But I'm really enjoying watching drivers try the high side one time and then go to the bottom the next time around, trying to figure out what is the best option. I don't think there's a clear consensus quite yet.
They're definitely searching around this racetrack. I look at Bobby Zielinski right now, back to the inside line through 3 and 4, trying to make up some time on Ryan Luza in front of him, who took that outside line around 3 and 4. And now the 83 car, like he did the last time, went down into the apron area. Doesn't go there this time by, so they're still trying to even search on the front straightaway as to where to go. Do they go down to the apron and near that grass like Luza was a couple of laps ago, or do they stay up on the banking of the racetrack? Zielinski in 4th. He was in 10th place prior to those pit stops happening. Started to move back up towards the front, but now sitting in position number 4, looking to make things happen from the top 5. Just a quick footnote, Zach Novak in car number 15, battling with Chris Overland. Overland on the inside, Novak on the outside. That is the battle for position number 12. Remember, Novak got caught with that caution flag. He was in 20th, and now he moves his way up and a little bit closer to the top 10.
And you're able to get a second look at that restart off of the perspective of the water machine to lose, so you can see just how slow he got all of a sudden, and he had a driver go to his inside and do his outside. That's what has him in 3rd at the moment, and he was able to pick up a spot from Fayash off of that, no doubt, but the biggest thing that hurt him again is just the 5-1 got a jump on him. Since that point, he hasn't been able to quite get back to Conti to be able to get around him, and the Fast Track Sims machine is now migrated up to that outside line down in corners 1 and 2, as the 5 has been, and maybe following the 5 as opposed to taking that aggressive line down low. But even at this end of the racetrack, they are closing the distance to Logan Clampitt. Is it a matter of commitment? Because the 5 and the 1 a lot closer to that fence can the last time in 3 and 4, and it appeared to gain about a car length or so.
Yeah, not only that, though, I see that Bordeaux and Richardson constantly dipping all the way down to the bottom. I almost wonder now if the guys are staying to the high side, not necessarily just because it's the fastest way around the circuit, but because it's the most efficient way to treat the tires, perhaps. As I think the inside line is slightly faster, but I think it's much more aggressive on the tires, much as we were talking about with the apron. Taylor Hurst, he's going way down to the apron, but meanwhile, though, sitting right on the rear of Logan Clampitt is Michael Conti and Ryan Michaeluza. Everybody catching each other up. I could have sworn Logan Clampitt would have been gone there, but no, Michael Conti and Luza catching them on up, Evan, as they go down the backstretch into 3 and 4.
They've been inching up to him, and now they are there, but they have caught the 44 by riding this top side of the racetrack. They're going to have to deviate from that, make the bottom work, because I highly doubt that that 44 is going to pull out of the way and say, go ahead, take the preferred line up top. So Conti gets to the bumper, but again, is going to have to decide how he wants to approach this. Does he dive to the inside early, maybe try to slide up in front of the 44, or would he even try to work his way to the outside of the 44? Clampitt is running the outside, but he's not right up against it. You can see there is some space there in the setup of the turn. If the 5 really wanted to get after it, and if he got a really good run off of the corner, might be able to force the issue. He looks to the inside, doesn't commit to the bottom, still tracing the 44 step for step.
And the 5 of Conti and the 1 of Luza, for that matter, got that great run at a corner number 4 and went to the inside and committed pretty much to that white line. Logan Clampitt let him have about a little peek, let's say, to that inside line and finally slammed the door near the start-finish line. So I think if Michael Conti and Ryan Luza are going to be able to make a move, Evan, it's going to be here at a corner number 4. Not this time. They don't have that space in between them. But I think if the 5 of Conti wants to make the move, it's got to be out of the corner and then dart down to that inside line and either hope that car sticks on the inside line to make the pass and get enough momentum, or something else to happen with that 44. Here comes the 1, though, on the inside. Ryan Luza flashed the nose to the inside of the left rear quarter of car number 5 of Conti. Couldn't do anything, and as they battle a little bit, it lets Logan Clampitt get out by a car length.
And you're going to see that constant tug of war. The 5's going to gain a little bit, then he'll lose a little bit the next time by. The key, I think, for both of these drivers might actually be Ryan Luza running in 3rd. If he gets tired of sitting behind the 5, and you have to assume that Conti is a little bit quicker than Clampitt, when you start to see a line of cars form up, it tends to be that the lead car is just a little bit slower than the drivers behind him. Case in point, Marcus Richardson and Bobby Zielinski are about to battle for the race lead. So there goes that one to the inside. I'm thinking if Luza gets tired of waiting on the 5, if they start fighting for a second, that is going to do neither of them a favor unless he quickly and cleanly executes a move on the 5 of Michael Conti. Conti not willing to budge, though, from that outside of the racetrack, and I think that Luza struggling to get around the 5 on the bottom cam is a perfect example of what would happen to Conti if he tried that same thing on the 44, hence his staying up top.
Yeah, it's almost as if Luza is going to have to wait for Richardson to catch on up to allow Richardson, if he dedicates himself to the bottom, to really try. Luza absolutely going at it. He's trying everything, going all the way down to the grass, but no, absolutely nothing in it, because Conti, I think he has that high side as we're talking about, and he's pretty comfortable up there. So for Clampitt, I think very much much needed relief for him. The dots in his mirror getting ever smaller, and that's what he wants to see. But for Luza, I think he might actually have a chance here as they go into 3.
And Luza's going to get an opportunity. He'll be about a quarter of a car length shy. And again, the banking topside allows Conti to wind it up and get a run down the straightaway. And he'll go from nearly being clear to nearly clearing the one of Luza, none of which got him away from the one. They will stay side by side. And just to what I was talking about a few laps ago, Tim, there goes Logan Clampitt, set and sail back to a rather comfortable 4/10 of a second margin, which is the largest his gap has been since the restart.
And Marcus Richardson wants to be a part of this battle as well. He goes to the middle lane, per se, as Michael Conti will clear those two, and Marcus Richardson going to follow him through on the outside line. It's going to dispatch Ryan Luza back to position number 4, and he's going to have to try to stop the bleeding, per se, here, because here comes Bobby Zielinski. Derek Bordeaux is there as well. Meanwhile, the 01 car of Richardson looked to the inside of Conti at a corner number 2 that time. Nothing doing there. The 01 car will pitch it back into the inside. They'll be side by side for second as Logan Clampitt begins to inch away once again as they come out of corner number 4. The 01 is there on the 5.
And Richardson, I think, was just able to take advantage of Luza really working hard on the bottom of the racetrack to get up and get around him. But is he going to make the exact same mistake by trying to get around Michael Conti the exact same way? He goes to the inside. They will fight side by side. I expect it to continue for a couple of laps. And if that one machine just stays up top, fills in the void left by the 01 diving low, then Luza might end up just getting that spot back. But anytime you go side by side, you're slowing yourself down. First it was Richardson who caught up to what was at first only a 2-car battle between Conti and Luza. Now on top of that, Bobby Zielinski creeping into the picture. The 04 of Derek Bordeaux, and the longer this goes on, the higher that number's going to get.
Yeah, almost 0.6 of a second a gap already. One Chevrolet leading 6 Fords is Marcus Richardson. He's sticking to the inside. He's trying to do what Luza did, and I almost wonder perhaps if Luza started realizing he's using those tires up quite a bit. Michael Conti is able to defend that position. Actually, Marcus Richardson, he is able to get on by, though Michael Conti is pulling alongside, taking away that outside line going into corner number 1, as the 01, though, should be able to perhaps complete the pass coming off of corner number 2. But meanwhile, though, I have to point out the number 74 car of Taylor Hurst. He has managed to catch the front 6 cars. He was in that pack way in the distance with Zach Novak, and he's managed over the last couple of laps to catch this group, so now it is a 7-car battle.
And you can see by the telemetry up on the top of your screen as well, by just watching these shots by those blue windshield banners, 3 of these drivers competing in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series playoff. You got the 01 division of Marcus Richardson came into tonight 12 points below the cut line. Ryan Luza came into tonight 20 points to the good, the highest driver on points, second overall. And then Bobby Zielinski third in the points. He's 14 to the good. But again, all of that's behind Logan Clampitt. He is now 9/10 of a second in front. Only 5 minutes to go. It almost looked all but sure that he was going to get passed up by not 1, but maybe 2 of the cars now battling back here. All of a sudden, he's a second out in front. But Richardson has been able to clear Luza. He's got clean air for P2. And now we have to keep an eye on the intervals to see if he's still got enough in those tires after fighting for almost 10 laps to try to now reel the 44 back in.
And as Conti worked the inside of the one of Luza, it looked like Richardson beginning to inch away from this battle. The 83 of Zielinski gets a great run at a corner number 4. He'll point the 83 to the inside of Michael Conti's number 5 machine, and they'll once again see Marcus Richardson get a little bit smaller in the windshield as he tries to track down Logan Clampitt. Car number 83, though, is Zielinski, is the driver that is on the move. Dispatches Conti back 1, and we'll see if he can get a run here on Ryan Luza down into corners number 3 and 4. That 83 cars look pretty stout the last couple laps.
And he's been improving over the course of the night. In fact, so has Conti. Conti started back in 13th position. He's been able to move up to P4. Zelensky's up 4 spots himself to get to 5th. But Taylor Hurst, somebody who we haven't talked all that much about, is wanting to get right up in this thing as Conti's going to lose that spot to Zelensky. The 74 is right now, I think, the second biggest mover in the field, plus 20 positions to Ryan 6th at the moment. All of this may have to be on hold, though. Drivers starting to chat on the radio about coming down pit road. Clampitt pitted early on that first incident, benefited him. He will not commit to pitting that time by, but we're right on the edge of a second round of green flag service.
Yeah, and it's actually started. The 01 car, Marcus Richardson, he has pulled onto pit lane, and nobody has joined him. The entire field is elected to not come in here on lap number 82, but Marcus Richardson, he'll come in early. He'll get that those tires. He'll get that fuel, and we'll see exactly how 4 brand new Goodyear Eagles can rip through this field, almost like a different classification of car, though. I wouldn't be too surprised if we don't see having a group of other takers as we are starting another round of green flag pit stop. This is a good thing to see here. We actually had a great green flag run going until we had that caution. As we can see, though, 1 lap down goes Marcus Richardson.
And that caution came not really during the cycle. There were still some drivers who got caught off on it a little bit. They weren't able to really work their way back up to the field after having just pitted, but it really wasn't an incident caused by drivers on old tires and fresh tires getting together, more or less a racing deal. So we got through that treacherous first cycle. Do we get it again successfully? The guys up front, at least right now, the top 5, still not committed to coming down to the pit lane. Clampitt loses Zelensky, Conti, and Hurst. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they're relatively tight together, all single file though, so once one of them makes the call to come down to the pit lane, the rest of them can jump on it too.
Here's a note for your notebook. Zach Novak just came down pit road. The window is pretty much just open now with Richardson and Novak coming down. Novak was 8th prior to that window opening. He comes down pit road. He was one of the last to come down pit road on that green flag run before the caution flag flew. And there's a caution flag again, so it looks like it's going to bite him again.
Yeah, well, the staying out on the last one really didn't help him all that much, so he figured he'll change up the strategy and short pit this time, and that didn't help him much either. Yellow flag is out, and its issues with the 06 machine. Byron Daly, second yellow on the night, right at the start. A green flag pit stop is going to catch up those drivers who pitted in. It looks like Daly may have been trying to get down to pit road. He slowed up right in front of the 35 and got tagged by Chris Shearburn. Byron Daly did say that he would be coming down pit road that time. Either the memo wasn't translated to the driver behind him, or that driver was a little bit surprised that the 06 was still up above the white line.
Yeah, I think it's he followed a very normal pit entry. I don't think really they go down any earlier than that. If anything, he went down a little early because he wanted to get out of that pack. Chris Shearburn just either didn't get the memo, didn't see, just as you were saying. Christian Chandler, he was also involved in that one just a bit, managed to pick up some left side damage on that number 78 Chevrolet. Though I have to say, Shearburn's car, though, definitely going to be worse for wear. When you strike an object going about 10, 20 mile an hour faster, it's going to do some damage, so Shearburn's going to need to get his car fixed up as well. So we're seeing cars that were already on pit lane, and now you've got the rest of the field that is going to be coming in, though. It's so, well, I hate to use the overused term, but this kind of, well, really does change everything, Evan.
And especially because it was such a limited number of drivers who pitted, they are really going to get caught out on this strategy. The majority of the field, though, had yet to commit to the pit stop, so we are back down pit road and led by Logan Clampitt. We saw 4 tires, the call after that early caution flag in this race, and that was off of a very short run, so no doubt it's going to be 4 this time, but I think Ryan Luza going to win the race off of pit road. A stellar stop, and it beats the 44 to the line.
And we saw on that last restart, now minus a little bobble on the restart by the one of Ryan Luza, he was really on it. So now he's going to have a little bit of track position by the looks of it over Logan Clampitt. Michael Conti comes off 3rd, Zelensky in 4th, and Taylor Hurst in position number 5. And we touched on it a little bit earlier. Cam had said that 74 was coming to the front of the field, albeit not in playoff contention. We always have one that seems to steal a victory. You know, look at that Taylor Hurst car as somebody that could very well shine in the second half of this race.
What we saw as well on the first time we came down to the pit lane under caution flying conditions was a couple of drivers who stayed out. Nick Ottinger did not pit the last time by, but he is headed down pit side this time through as well. You're also going to have a lot of drivers out on the racetrack who are looking for a wave by, that being drivers who had pitted. No need for them to come back down to the pit lane once more, but they are going to stay out here. They'll get in front of the leaders and they will get a wave by to get back to the lead lap, and that's quite the hefty number of cars. You've got Lowe, Daly, Bordeaux, Novak, Vincent, Soderberg, Hill, Johnson, and Fayash all looking to get back to the lead lap. All of those drivers who got caught out would get back to the lead lap, but they'll be then at the tail end of the line and on old tires. So it would be quite some time for them to be able to at least get back on the same page. They need a quick yellow to get tires again.
Yeah, and it's a very tough position to find yourself in. The guys that had come in and then stayed out, and then were able to really get their pit stop in the lap before, your Zach Novak, he's on the lead lap now, and so is most of the group, actually, pretty much everybody. But as we said, it's going to be a little tough. I actually wonder, I don't think anyone was really significantly impacted, I'd have to say, throughout this, because those guys had pitted right kind of at what would be considered to be the wrong moment. But if they...
We have an opportunity to chat with Zach Novak on the radio. Zach, you got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, second caution on the night. In the first one, it came out after you guys went deep into a run and then decided to pit. So this time, you guys went with the short pit, and a yellow flag comes out once more, getting the wave by this time. Where does this put you guys?
It's going to put us way behind where we should be. This car is definitely one that can compete for the win. We keep getting caught on the wrong side of it, and it's really stressful, but we're going to come back from this. We got 80 laps to, make something happen, so hopefully you can expect us up at the front at the end of this thing.
We know the car's fast. Is it going to be a struggle getting through traffic, or do you feel like the top and the outside gives enough options for you?
I think we'll be okay. It'll take a little bit longer than last time, but we restarted 20th or so last caution, and we were up in the top 10 within halfway through, so I think we'll be good. Just gonna be a struggle getting through the field, towards the back at least.
Looks like you guys will be 33 for this one. Let you get back to the team radio. Best of luck.
Thank you.
And that's some insight with the driver of the number 15 to be seen. Zach Novak again caught out on that strategy. One of just about 10 or so drivers who had already pitted before the yellow. He is going to be way back after starting on a pole position. And if he cannot figure this thing out, it's going to be a rough night for him in the playoff picture. Up front, though, smooth sailing for Ryan Luza and Logan Clampitt. They're on the front row, and they're coming to get back underway. 90 laps complete from Chicago as the one gets out and in front.
No hesitation that time. Ryan Luza takes that lead down into corner number 1, and here comes Conti on the inside. And there's Cody Bias in the 27 car. The 27 is back in the top 5, and Bias is battling with Zielinski on the outside. Top 3 get single file. 27 remains on the inside of the 83 as they dance down into corner number 3 for position number 4. Clampitt gets a run on Conti as Bias clears Zielinski.
A couple of shuffled up positions there inside of the top 5, with the 5 picking up one and a caution flag behind. Spinner out of turn 4. It is Nolan Scott in the number 16 cam. This will help out those drivers who got caught off on the pit strategy, but the 16 goes around, and it looked like he may have been trying to get to pit road and missed it.
Yeah, I don't really know what was going on because he hadn't committed. I'd almost gather something went wrong hardware-wise or something, because the car was working perfectly fine, and then it rapidly decelerated, but he didn't even steer the wheel towards pit lane, and then once it went to the inside, he ended up just looping it around, and finally he's got himself onto pit lane. But yeah, very strange decision that he would come in under green right after that caution period, so not quite sure what Nolan Scott was doing there.
He rolls right through the pit lane. The only thing that I could think of is maybe he had some sort of a penalty, but he was up inside of the top 10. He was not somebody, Tim, who was on old tires, but he appeared to forcefully make his way from the outside to the bottom of the racetrack, down the back straightaway, as to set up to come down pit road. And if that's what the objective was, just completely missed the entry.
Yeah, something definitely amiss there for Nolan Scott, a veteran of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series, and we'll see what happens with him on the rest of the night. Meanwhile, it's Ryan Luza leading this thing with Conti, Clampitt, Bias, and Zielinski, your top 5. Evan, what this caution is going to do, it's going to allow some of those drivers that just took the wave around, like a Zach Novak, to come in and take some tires on this caution flag, so he'll be on even keel with the rest of them.
We do see the drivers towards the back of the field trickle down to the pit lane because, again, this is what they basically needed. Quick yellow, they can get back on even frame with tires. They're still going to have to work through the traffic, but they're at least at a little bit less of a disadvantage. And with this last caution flag bringing us through and past the halfway point tonight from Chicago, let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the globe. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and more. Ryan Luza is your race leader at lap number 94, trailed by Michael Conti, Logan Clampitt, Cody Bias, and Bobby Zielinski inside of the top 5. Taylor Hurst up 20 spots, rides at P6 at the moment. Kenny Humpy exactly where he started in 7th. Jake Sturgis is running in 8th position with Philip Diaz in 9th, and Dylan Duvall rounding out your top 10.
David Rattler having a great run this evening, qualified in 10th. It's currently running in position number 11 under this caution. Jimmy Mullis in position number 12 behind him. Chris Overland's been hanging out around the top 15 most of the night. He sits 13th. Joe Letteriello is 14th, and Jake Nichols sits in 15th. Brian Blackford had that spin earlier. He runs in 16th. Matt Busa in 17th. Chandler Krizik in 18th. Blake Reynolds, he was in the top 10 for most of the first stint, in 19th, and Casey Tucker completes your top 20.
Timmy Hill, he's gone up from 38th to 21st. Will Cooley, 22nd. Christian Chalnier will be in 23rd. Byron Daly in 24th. Marcus Richardson, he'll be in 25th position. Mitchell Hunt, 26th. Chris Shearburn, 27th. Alex Bergeron in 28th position. Derek Bordeaux in 29th. And Nick Ottinger is rounding out your top 30.
Continuing through, 31st position is where you'll find your pole sitter Zach Novak. Corey Vincent is 32nd, with Ryan Schoenberg 33rd, Michael J. Johnson 34th, and Ryan Lowe in P35. The final drivers on the lead lap, Brad Davies P36, Andrew Fayash in 37th, and 38th spot is Tyler Hill. Aside from that, only 2 drivers still in this race off of the lead lap. Both Nolan Scott in 39th and Adam Gilliland in 40th are 1 lap down and still on track. The only retiree that we have seen so far in this race is Alan Bowes in the number 21 machine. Started up in P12, but his night came to a premature close, and he is going to come home at the back of the pack. That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And for a limited time, if you log on to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws, you can take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. You can either get yourself a 1-year iRacing membership for over 50% off the sticker price, or you can go with just a 3-month membership for less than $5. Those are valid on new iRacing memberships only, and you can pick up that deal through the rest of 2017 by logging on to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. So for a race that has been really green, the second caution flag brings a third out quite quickly, and the pace has slowed at the midway point in tonight's Chicagoland 250. We do go back green, though, as we put 96 laps behind us of the 167 on the evening. Changes on the front row. Conti was able to get around Logan Clampitt on the last restart, so they swap out positions. Conti to the outside of row 1, Clampitt to the inside of row number 2, Bias 4th, and Zielinski to round through your top 5. The pace car down. Does the one hold them in the box, or does he go right away? He'll hold them, bring them slow into the restart box. Right foot down, and we go back underway. Good jump by the one to try to get clear, but again, slow through the gears. Here comes Conti.
And the caution flag back out on the speedway as they dive it down into corner number 1. So a little bit of a reprieve that time, Evan, from that little bobble down into corner number 1, as Luza will slow the field down the back.
And it's bad news for Zach Novak. We had just talked to him about how confident he felt about getting through the pack in traffic. You're going to get a second look at this one. The driver who coming into tonight was in a little bit of a peculiar position in this championship. The first spot into the red. He got hard into the back of the 04 of Derek Bordeaux, who was slow off for the restart, and then the 04 spun up into the 15 to Zach Novak. That is a terrible take for the 15 team.
Absolutely. That accordion effect always amplifies as it gets to the further afield, and Nick Ottinger, he dived way to the inside. Chris Shearburn, well, he really didn't have anywhere to go, so he was on the binders. Derek Bordeaux then on the binders. Zach Novak nowhere to go, and once he made contact with that car of Bordeaux, slid right on up the track and ended up also hitting Ryan Lowe. Innocent party to that one. But for Zach Novak, yes, not a good day, not at all. The engine looks damaged as well. I honestly think out of everybody that was involved in that, he's the one that got worst off, and obviously not necessarily the greatest scenario. We just had an interview with him. Obviously, it's not going to be a good end here at Chicagoland.
Yeah, he still had his hopes up. Again, it was a fast race car, and obviously restarts are going to be treacherous, no doubt, but I don't think there's any way you can plan for this. And as that thick black smoke pours out of the back of his Toyota Camry, Tim, you have to think that this is not going to be anywhere close to a solid points night for that team. And again, he came into tonight 5th on the playoff grid, 9 points out of the final transfer spot to Logan Clampitt. Anything outside of the top 30 tonight basically puts in a win or go home situation in 2 weeks' time.
The good news for him right now is Chalner, Richardson, and Vincent are outside the top 20 right now in the running order. The bad news is that we have over 60 laps before we finish this race, and that could very well change. It almost puts Novak in a must-win situation in Dover. Yes, we could have one of those three that I just mentioned continue to maybe have a bad night and maybe fall back closer to where Zach Novak will finish in this one. But with Ryan Luza running well, obviously Bobby Zielinski's running well, and Logan Clampitt is running well, it almost puts the pressure on for Novak to win at Dover the next race out.
And it appears that Zach Novak's night is going to be done. He brought that car down to the pit lane, and it appears that he is not going to be able to continue, which would mean he would fall if all the drivers actively on the racetrack continue for at least 2 more laps. Zach Novak would fall to 40th position here tonight. And you couple that with a 9-point disadvantage to begin the evening, he is going to be deep into the red come 2 weeks' time at Dover, and would basically have to win that race, or he will not have an opportunity to fight the championship in this NASCAR K&N Pro Series. So 3rd yellow at a very quick string of them here at the midway race break. We always say that yellows breed yellows, but really bringing it to it off of these restarts, treacherous track conditions have really slowed things up. The race leaders have had an opportunity to pit the last 2 yellows consecutively, but have decided not to. Not that it's a huge swing in the fuel, but I do think that we should note that drivers outside of the top 20 and 25 have been coming down under these most recent yellows just to top off on fuel, get fresh tires while they're back there. The guys up front have not. A little bit tricky to tell if that'll play a factor in the 67 laps left to go in this race as of the next time by, but just for record's sake, should note that while the guys up front have not been pitting, people at the back have been.
Yeah, 26th on back, minus Chris Shearburn, have come in down pit lane, and they have all gotten not just fuel, but 4 tires. Alex Bergeron, he's your leading edge of these cars that are going to have 4 brand new tires. The rest of the field, while the majority of these laps have been under caution, is still 13-lap-old tires. Now, to be fair, I don't think it's going to have that much of a deal, because we really only had a couple of restarts on these tires, so they should be perfectly fine at Goodyear Eagles, but you never know. Expect to see perhaps some of the guys back there with 4 tires moving to the field.
Good news is lights go out back on top of the pace car, so as we get set to try it once more, I want to remind you that this portion of tonight's broadcast, as we continue to work down to the end of this thing, is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liners, the official bed liner of NASCAR. No changes on the front row. In fact, they didn't have much time to do it off of the last one, but the one of Luza, at least on 2 occasions now, has appeared to have a good restart, and it just looks like the car is slow getting from second to third gear. It happened once, and on that last one, he looked clear of Conti, but slowed down about 6-7 seconds after he started to go, and the 5 was able to pull back up even with him. Now the yellow came out. It may have bailed the one out in that one, but make sure to keep an eye on that number 1 Ford on the inside of the front row to see just how good he can get off and get going on this restart. 101 laps behind us and still 66 in front of us. Ryan Luza looking for a trip to Homestead. Green flag flies and nailed that one.
And the 5 slow on the outside. The 27 Tobias thought about going to the outside. He pulls back down to the inside, though, as they run down into corner number 1. Clampitt will look to clear Conti on that inside line, and now the 27 of Cody Bias tried to do the same, couldn't get the run at a corner number 2, and now the 5 sets his sights on Logan Clampitt. Ryan Luza, no problem on that one. He has gone by 3 lengths over the 44 as they run through 3 and 4.
And Luza, I think, in coordination with that 44 Clampitt, who was able to pick up a spot on Conti, as you said, that lap, have been the 2 fastest cars so far tonight, especially now that Novak is out of this thing. I think that the 1 and the 44 have the best opportunity here. It may come down to just who gets a better jump off of a restart. Clean air can be huge at a 1.5-mile intermediate racetrack. We'll watch the interval between those 2 up front and see if Luza can get away or if Clampitt can reel him in and make it a battle for the race lead. We are not in the final stint to the end of this race. Drivers will still need to come down pit road one more time. That's also something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and also something to keep in mind is just how these guys are treating their tires. Ryan Luza, he had no hesitation going underneath the apron and really trying to get as much as he can. I think he wants to try to build as much of a gap to Logan Clampitt as he can, because he knows from his experience the last quite a couple of green flag stints that if you're running side by side, you don't really get to go anywhere. And if Michael Conti and the rest of the gang catches on up to Logan Clampitt, he's going to hopefully expect that the same thing happens, but in reverse, we have a yellow out on the track.
Big check it out down to corner number 1, and it is Brian Blackford in the 22. He is at least one of the drivers in this one as he went for a loop, and it was the number 22 of Brian Blackford. A caution flag will fly at lap 105, and very similar incident to what we saw with him a little bit earlier on. The 22 and the 66 just got together. Looked like maybe the 22 was expecting Reynolds to go to the apron. He did not, and just kind of held that seam all the way through, and they merged into each other. And it was the 22 who went for a ride for the second time tonight.
And it almost looked like he had it saved, or relatively saved, at least underneath him, and then Will Cooley gets into the back of him. But for Cooley, there was really no place to go and no time to react to what had happened in front of him. So, little chain reaction wreck following that little contact between Reynolds and the 22 of Blackford to bring out another caution here. This will put us with under 60 laps to go, and what you mentioned, Evan, these drivers, about 30 laps or so on their stints, it's going to pretty much break up this race if it does go green to the end.
And with the yellow flag coming out and the race leaders potentially pitting this time, it looks like the one to lose is not going to commit to it. Ryan Luza stays out, and he draws Clampitt out at the last second. Conti does pit, though. So a split decision up front. The point I was going to make is pitting right now does not get you into a one-stop window. So Michael Conti appears to be in the minority coming down pit road for tires.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think this is the right call for the guys staying out to stay out. Well, you haven't really had enough laps to really even put heat cycles on these tires. It seems that we've got, what, 4 cautions now real quick back-to-back, so just a couple of starts on them, and I think they're going to continue to hold them, especially with how many cars had stayed out. It's going to prove pretty prudent that the guys that did come into the pits will need to get their 4 tires. I think we can see Luza, he goes right to the inside of the apron. It wouldn't be surprising if he's trying to save as much fuel as he can just in case he needs to make a run, but either way, though, no matter what, everyone's going to have to come in down one more time.
And Luza, just for context here, was last on the pit lane at lap number 88. If we're talking about green flag laps, you probably don't want to push it from lap 88 to lap 167. But because so many yellow laps have been run since that point, they're only using about half the amount of fuel, and they're saving the tires. Tires are really the primary reason why we've been seeing drivers come down to the pit lane. You can go at least, we know people have gone over 40 laps in this race, so if these guys can stretch it 20 more laps, they'd be able to get to that window. We said that at least the majority of the guys up front decided to stay out. Tim, one driver who did come down, and we saw it from up front, was Michael Conti, and I think you've got him on the radio.
Yeah, Michael Conti, driver the number 5. You got a copy, bud?
I got you, Tim.
So what happened there? I know there's some guys that stayed out. You came down pit road. Whose call was it, and what's the thinking behind the call?
Well, as you guys have seen the whole year, we like to do things a little bit differently over here at Team Conti with the Peak Forward. So we are going to go off strategy here and try to make up some spots with some fresh tires. There's a couple heat cycles there with those quick restarts. So, you know, here's to hoping that they don't wreck right in front of us and we can pick them off with some new tires. So we've been really good tonight. This Peak Forward is awesome. Once again, we're running really well. Unfortunately, we are not in the playoffs, so that gives us some added ability to be a little bit more, you know, creative with our strategy, and that's what we're doing here. So I'm looking forward to this. This should be fun, and hopefully we can get this Peak Forward back in victory lane.
And you're going to have your teammate back there as well, and Brian Schoenberg. You mentioned these next couple laps on this restart are going to be key. How key are they going to be to picking up some positions here right off the hop when everybody's bunched together?
Well, we're just going to have to sit this thing up top and try to pass everybody where they're not. I'm assuming everybody's going to flock back to the bottom here like they've done the last few restarts. And although it does wear the tires out a little bit more when you run that top when it's green like this, you know, we have fresher tires. So hopefully it should work out. It's a really good car. I like passing cars, and this gives us an opportunity to do so.
One to go. We'll let you go now, and we'll see what we can do at the end of this and maybe talk to you after the race.
Thank you, Tim.
There you go, Evan. That's Michael Conti. And we seen the move earlier when we had Zach Novak in the middle of the pack. He was starting 20th, 30th on those restarts, and he got caught off. Michael Conti is going to restart by the looks of it in 16th place, so a little better than what Novak had, but still in the middle of the pack.
We've seen drivers who started rated around there. Jake Sturgis, as an example, who started in 17th, be able to work his way up to the top 10. So it is not impossible for Michael Conti to be able to work his way back through this. And in fact, 16th is only 3 spots further back than where he started. In 13th position, he's done it once. The Peak Forward is just going to have to try to do it once more, with substantially less laps left on the board, as this one going to come inside of 60 laps to go. So a handful of short stints. The majority of the drivers, in fact the top 15 to make the math easy, have stayed out. They have not pitted. Do the old tires hurt them at all? Here comes Luza on the inside with another good restart. He'll pull a car length on the 44. Clampitt down to quarter number 1 as Bias going to make a challenge to the inside.
And Cody Bias, these last couple of restarts, he has managed to find his way through every single restart. He's just 1 position further ahead, and now he finds himself in 2nd and comfortably. He started in 5th, faded a little bit in the middle of this race, but right now he's right where he needs to be, and as long as they can catch Ryan Michaeluza before he gets too far ahead, before they start fighting with each other, they got a pretty good shot of having this be a one large battle. But I gotta say though, Ryan Michaeluza putting in an absolute stormer over lap that time. He managed to get 0.3 of a second just like that.
And Clampitt needs something on the outside because he's risky to falling back to 4th, which under green flag conditions, aside from pit cycles, would be, I think, the furthest back he's been in the field all night. It looked like Hurst might have been able to get him the last time by. In fact, had a nose at the stripe, but the 44 does stay clear up on the top, and Logan Clampitt will settle into 3rd position. Hurst behind him at 4th, and Kenny Humpy in P5. Side by side, just behind that, with Chris Overland on the inside of the racetrack, and Bobby Zelensky on the outside. The 83 machine doesn't need a fantastic night, has a double-digit advantage in the championship at the moment, and doing a good job right now, P10.
Yeah, the 47 of Chris Overland makes that spot and moves up to position number 6. There's Jake Sturgis. Haven't talked a whole lot about him all night long. He's in the top 10 here in the late stages of this one, with Dylan Duval in position number 9 and Joe Letteriello in the top 10. Michael Conti's been making some 2 and 3 wide moves to get back closer towards the front of the field. He works the inside of the 33 car as they run down the back. Jimmy Mullis, a part of that battle as well. Keep a half eye on this one because Conti is storming through this field. He's looking at 10.
Everybody trying to get in those last couple of spots. If we do see a green flag stretch to the end and green flag pit stops, this may be your last chance with drivers in close proximity to get a lot as this race works down. But up front, Ryan Luza really starting to put it to these guys, powering to a 9/10 of a second advantage over Bias in second, and Logan Clampitt, who still sits in third, only a couple of car lengths off the 27. He's really not gained or lost any time. Hurst is still out the same distance, same with Humpy, Overland, and Zelensky, who just recently settled out their dispute for the number 6 spot on the racetrack, but that one is looking sporty up front, another 5 100ths faster than anybody else the last lap.
Yeah, and I have to say, the car that you see in front of the leader right now, Ryan Michaeluza, is Nolan Scott. He's 2 laps down. He's actually running faster laps than Ryan Michaeluza. So I don't believe that if Luza was able to catch him, that he would battle with him at all. But I have to say, looking all the way back now to that position 10, Michael Conti, he's finding himself around pretty much every single car that he's came across. He's finding his way easily through this field as they go across the start-finish line one more time, completing lap 116. I wouldn't be too surprised if Michael Conti manages to find himself in the top 5, but how long do you have until your tires wear off to the point that everyone else finds yourself even?
And the one does not really have clean track either. He has Nolan Scott in front of him. It's a lap car. Scott runs in 37th position and 2 laps down. It has to be affecting the one just in the slightest. The 16's really not off pace, so the one may not even be able to get up to him and pass him because that car does actually have fresher tires at the moment. The fighting, though, not just restricted to the top 5. The 5 of Conti himself is trying to get a part of it, but it is the 47 of Overland who's going to go +1 that time as he's able to get up and in front as Chris Overland showing some late race speed in this one. The 5 not willing to roll over, though. Conti right back to the outside and powered right back around him. Impressive in 3 and 4.
Conti with those fresh tires going to make up that spot, but as you mentioned, Chris Overland in that 47 car, he's been hanging around the top 15 most of the race. Had a good, strong start to this one, and now he runs within the top 10. I don't think Overland's run is over, and keep in mind, we went green with about 60 laps to go or so, or a little bit less. These drivers will still have to make one more stop. I don't think Conti would push it all the way to the end, but you never know as he closes in on Kenny Humpy in that top 5 position. Just in front of them, it's Taylor Hurst working on Cody Bias for position number 3. Hurst went all the way down on the apron that time, tried to leverage that run through 1 and 2, and can't do it off of 2. Cody Bias going to get that run on the high side, and Humpy is going to try to follow him through in the Simcraft number 58. They'll dance now for position number 4. Hurst on the inside, Humpy on the outside, and Conti coming from behind.
And again, you get a couple of people distracted fighting amongst each other. They may not be checking that mirror, and Conti trying to slither his way into this thing. Surprise these guys looking to the inside of the 58, but can't get bottom of the 74 of Hurst. Now in the center of the corner, walks his way in, and he might block the 58, and Humpy might have been looking for a crossover, not going to happen, as Conti makes it a fight now for 5th position on the racetrack. He was making moves on the outside of Overland, and now making moves on the inside of the 74 of Hurst. Either or, the 5 car is quick, and he'll get that spot. Not clear, but does have a nose in front.
Yeah, meanwhile, this battle taking off is allowing Logan Clampitt to get a little bit of a gap, though. Ryan Michaeluza very happy with what he's seeing behind Nolan Scott, not impeding him at all, actually pulling away a little bit is Nolan Scott. He's got 1.3 seconds on probably the 5-10 laps we've run under green flag conditions, but for Luza, very happy to see Logan Clampitt getting just a little bit smaller, though I'm wondering if Cody Bias can perhaps reel in Logan Clampitt, as here comes Michael Conti. As I said, top 5, well, he's looking for more.
And as you watch him trying to get another spot, you're getting a second look at just what that 5 did on the restart, going 3 wide after we got back underway. Was behind the 34 and the 05, decided I'll go to the inside of all of them. Was able to get that spot and just now completing a pass on Cody Bias. Conti, we were questioning if he was going to be able to make this strategy work from 16th position. We had inferred that maybe it wasn't the best call because he's not in the fuel window. He has gained now 13 positions off of the restart, and he's up to P3, fastest car on track.
And he'll close in on Logan Clampitt. He'll run that middle groove through 1 and 2. Clampitt comes up the racetrack, and that 5 car closing in, creeping into the picture of the 44. It's about 1.3 seconds or so up to your leader, but Michael Conti showing that speed right now. He sliced through all that traffic and now closes in on Logan Clampitt. Keep an eye on that. Behind them, side by side with the 27 of Cody Bias and Taylor Hurst. They continue their side-by-side battle. There's pockets all over this racetrack, Evan, as we close in on the end of this one. These guys trying to pick up as many positions as they can towards the end.
And it's starting to look like now, after we got all of those cautions back-to-back, they came off of restarts. Guys really tightly packed together, getting into each other. The longer you go on a green flag stretch, the more separation you're going to see, and the odds that this thing may go green to the end continue to go up and up. That may be good news for Conti. Here he goes, and we're going to have a challenge for second position. Looking to the outside, you can see he's just able to get back to the gas sooner with a big run this time at a 2. Does he go to the inside of Logan Clampitt in a battle for second? Maybe not quite yet.
No, I almost don't think he's going to stay to the high side. That's where he's been comfortable. That's where he's been able to defend the positions. That's where he's really been able to make it work. Will Logan Clampitt go to the apron? They both go to the apron. Do a little bit of lawn care as they go up into 1. Oh, so very close for Logan Clampitt. Close the door right in front of Michael Conti. Michael Conti, though, had to get a little bit off it. So Logan Clampitt, a slight reprieve, but it wouldn't surprise me. Michael Conti continues to push his way through. He's on almost 10-lap younger tires, and it wouldn't surprise me to see that number 5 Ford in second position not too long from now.
Yeah, Clampitt took tires on 39 laps ago, Conti only 19, but again, 20 could be deceiving because many of those laps took place under caution, obviously not wearing them like you would at this kind of race pace. Conti, though, has actually forced Logan Clampitt to pick up the pace. When he caught Clampitt, they were 1.2 seconds off of the top spot, Tim, and I was expecting to check the intervals as this fight had been going on and expecting them to lose time. They've actually both gained 2/10 as Conti goes to the inside of the racetrack. The 44 put up a good fight, but fresh tires too much to handle, and Michael Conti now 1 spot away from the top of the scoring pylon on a questionable pit strategy call that appears to be working out.
And Clampitt got the run at a corner number 4 to suck right back up to the 5 of Michael Conti. Believe he's going to try to keep up with the 5 as well as he can as Conti tries to make that gap a little bit thinner that Ryan Luza has in front of this field. Taylor Hurst has taken that 4th place position away from Cody Bias, and really he begins to pull away. Matt Busa tries to reel him in for position number 5, but keep an eye on Conti. Conti now has about 2 car lengths on that 44 of Logan Clampitt as they come down the front straightaway. They'll dive it down into corner number 1, and it's about 0.6 of a second now between your top 2.
Last lap for Ryan Michael Luza was a 30.636 for Michael Conti, a 30.475, so nearly 2/10 quicker per lap between the driver on the older tires and the driver on the fresh tires. Something else to note, though, as we work lap 129 and we are inside of 40 laps to go, we are inside of the fuel window. So if Luza gets caught by Conti, I would expect him to pit before the 5 gets around him and starts to run away. Something to keep in mind as we watch the gap shrink only by 1/10 that time.
Yeah, and you almost wonder here, pretty much every single time we've started a green flag pit cycle, a caution has come out. So what do you do? What do you risk? Brad Davies, the first to come into the pit lane. Will any of the top 10 come in here as they go past the pit entry? No, nobody except for Cody Bias. Bias will end up coming in. I don't think he's going to have much company outside of a couple of cars from the rear of the field. But either way, though, this is the huge gamble. This is where those crew chiefs have crunched all those numbers. They're trying to figure out what they can do, how long those tires will last, and what they want to do. And all those things have to come very, very soon.
The fuel call is easy. There's a number that you could make on fuel. Everybody knows it. When you're in that window, you pit. That's not the difficult part. We could even figure that out. The challenge is, as you said, pitting this early. Is it worth the risk of going a lap down? Are those tires, I guess, going to be good enough at the end of this race? But more drivers pitting. Dylan Duvall going to come in from the top 10. More drivers down pit road just in front of him. But up front, Luza continues to stay out, and Conti continues to close in on him. And to the point, Tim, that that you had made, Clampitt is doing a very good job after getting passed by the 5 of sticking with him.
Yeah, keeping right with the pace of the 5 of Michael Conti. They come up at a corner number 4. Those top 3 will stay on the racetrack and complete 132 on the racetrack, along with Taylor Hurst and Matt Busa, along with Marcus Richardson, who just made the move on Matt Busa to move into the top 5. There's another one of your championship contenders in car 01 of Richardson. A couple of those playoff contenders having a bad run here this evening. Richardson pushing towards the front, and he was a contender early before pit stops kind of shuffled up that order, so keep an eye on that 01 car. They come up at a corner number 4. Ryan Luza does. He maintains the lead on the racetrack. Look at the run that Clampitt gets at a corner number 4. He was there on the 5.
And he looked to the outside. The 5 went down to the apron to protect that inside positioning. Clampitt, I don't think, really wanting to make a play for second with this close to pit stops. I think he just wanted to stick with him, so he decided to stay high. But Taylor Hurst in the 74 rides in 4th at the moment. He just came over the radio and said that he would have been pitted. Michael Conti says that he will pit this time, so he's not going to get Toulouse, but he will short pit him, Cam, at a 0.3 of a second disadvantage. Conti is in, Clampitt is in, Hurst is in. These drivers are set to gain just 2 seconds a lap on fresh tires alone.
Yeah, worrisome entry from Michael Conti. He locked him up and slid. I think he might have came across the cone a little fast, but he slowed on down, so we'll see what they say as he comes off of pit lane. But Michael Conti, though, he's going to get his 4 tires. He's going to get his service. Pretty much all of your playoff contenders on pit lane minus Michael Luza, and obviously we've seen Marcus Richardson. He's going to be joining them on a pit lane as well, I think, as everyone else pretty much who hasn't coming down for a pit, as I think pretty much everyone outside the top 20 has pitted, so it's only a matter of time before it starts getting to that point those tires start really coming into play.
Race off for the pit exit. The 44 was able to get up and in front of the 5. But Tim, one thing that surprised you to be is Luza did not pit the last time by. He'll ride the inside, and he will come down now 2 laps after the drivers behind him did. But we saw 2 seconds per lap. Caution! Flag flies just as that one got inside of the line.
So caution will fly the number 1 of Ryan Luza. You would have to believe that he might possibly drive through here. Is he going to stop in his box? He's coming down towards his box right now, so he'll get service. He was already on pit road, so why not come down and get service to that number 1 Ford as they go for right tires.
Taking a second look at the incident that involves the Donna Tyler Hill. He got loose, and this is the concern during cycles of pit stops. Is fast cars on new tires, slower cars on old tires. The 73 was blistering through the field and got checked up and just got into the Donna Tyler Hill, spun him around immediately over the radio. It was Jake Nichols apologizing. He obviously didn't want to get into him, but where does this leave us? Because we had just seen Luza come down to the pit lane. The drivers who had already pitted, Conti, Clampitt, Duval, and company, they're a lap down. The yellow coming out when it did may have prevented Ryan Luza from falling a lap down. Regardless of that, you still got half a field who has yet to pit, and this is going to completely change the look of this race with 30 laps to go.
Yeah, 30 to go indeed. Very, very much the worst time to have this caution. It seems to be the theme here tonight at Chicagoland is inappropriately timed cautions. But either way, though, a pretty good portion of this field coming in. I almost think everybody that didn't already pit is on pit lane right now. That'll put probably be Cody Bias, I think, because obviously he was the first one to come in and get tires, so wouldn't be surprised if he finds himself up front of this field. They're all coming off a pit lane. They'll be rejoining the rear of this field.
So it looks like with pit service and everything, Sturgis, Vincent Hunt, and Tucker looks like all came down to the pit lane. So Ryan Luza, depending on the timing in this, may cycle through back to the race lead. A difference of a half a second. If he was coming to pit road and the caution flag came out, he would have been penalized for entering a closed pit. It was down to a 1/10 of a second. He just, I think, got in that white line where the commitment code was and the pit lane speed limit starts just before the yellow flag came out. The caution is going to allow Clampitt, Conti, Duval, the 3 names who would have cycled back up front. They run 20th 21st and 22nd at the moment. They will stay out and they will get a wave around to go back to the race lead. But they are going to end up, I think, well behind Luza, and we'll wait to see once all of those wave rounds are completed to confirm. But this may work out for the one team.
And here's a name we haven't talked about all night long. It's Corey Vincent. He scored in position number 5. He's a playoff contender, and he's been running outside the top 20 for most of this, Evan. Haven't really said his name a whole lot. He was on the racetrack when the caution flag came out. He's going to have some position. He's going to line up, by the looks of it, in position number 5. Marcus Richardson looking really good, as is Ryan Lewis, as we mentioned, at the front of the field. Jimmy Mullis, another name we haven't mentioned all night long. He's up there in the top 5. This is definitely going to shake some stuff up. By the looks of it, I'm seeing Adam Gilliland scored in position number 10 right now. He was a lap down early in the race.
Well, for the likes of Vincent, Cam, I know that you were talking about him earlier on in this, and while we were watching the battle up front, he was stuck back in traffic outside of the top 20 and couldn't get anywhere. And while he does get a lot of spots here late, it's not unrealistic to think that that 10 wouldn't be able to compete. He was 14th on the grid. He's got the 3 drivers in front of him had slower queue times than him. He was 21st in practice, but that's still faster than Marcus Richardson, who's running second at the moment. So the 10 stands a reasonable shot at being competitive in this, which is big, not only for the fact that he came into tonight 10 points below the cut line in the playoffs, and up until this point had a pretty dismal evening, but all of a sudden he's thrust into an opportunity to race for the win here.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's when you start getting a little tricky here. How much do you want to push? Do you want to risk, perhaps, having an incident in the closing stages of the race and losing it all and finding yourself below that cup line, or do you just want to settle for a top 5? I hate settling, but you know what? It's a very smart way to go about winning a championship, however, which is obviously the much bigger picture. Now, Corey Vincent, yeah, pretty much after that previous caution, he found himself basically stuck in an entire gaggle of cars at 23rd. He was slowly moving his way forward, but it just wasn't going to work out. It wasn't going to work well. I don't think if the race went green, he probably would have finished maybe top 15. Well, a little bit of a reversal of fortune here.
With the lights back on top of the pace car, Ryan Lewis is going to maintain the race lead. Logan Clampitt, who is challenging him for the lead, is going to be 19th position. Michael Conti is going to be 20th, and as you can see at the top of your screen, a lot of those names that have been in this fight late are going to be outside of the top 20. So here we go, 27 laps to go. Can Richardson or Sturgis, somebody else, get a shot at this win as we go back underway and Lewis controls the restart?
Looks like a clean start for Ryan Lewis as he dives it down into corner number 1. The 41 of Jake Sturgis will take position number 2. Richardson a little bit free there in the middle of the corner. Will open the door for Mullis if he can get the run down the back straightaway. He can't do so. Just behind them, it's the 10 of Corey Vincent trying to hold off all comers. Mitchell Hunt, and is that for the first time this evening? Timmy Hill in the top 10. He looks to the inside of the 71.
Started back in 38th position. All of a sudden, he is your biggest mover, running P7 on the racetrack at the moment. Casey Tucker, Alex Bergeron, and Andrew Fayash through the top 10 as we run right now. But Jake Sturgis into P2, who's got my eye. He is not letting Ryan Luza get away. It's only a 0.3 of a second difference between first and second.
Not only that, I haven't really seen Jake Sturgis pretty much all day long. Started back in 17th, and he's finding himself right in second, courtesy of that caution. But the biggest thing is he's pulling a bit of a gap from Marcus Richardson. This is important because pretty much as we've seen, every single green flag run, every single time people start racing side by side, you lose speed. The guys in front of you say goodbye, and they leave you in the dust. But Ryan Michaeluza, that last green flag run that we had, he managed to pull a really good gap very early on. Jake Sturgis, out of nowhere, he is closing him in, and he is reeling him in, and then he goes and taps the outside wall.
He had a fantastic run off of the corner, and he slammed that outside wall. And not only did it obviously stunt the momentum, but that looked like a hard enough hit that it could have done some substantial damage to that car, trying to kind of get his mojo back underneath them, get back into a rhythm. A little bit sloppy that time, down in turns 1 and 2, but only falling an additional 1/10 of a second off Veluza. He is still right there, and not only is that 41 impressive, but Richardson's right there. Mullis is right there as well, and even the 40 and the 10 of Corey Vincent through the top 5. So Ryan Luza may not be as made out to win this thing as we may have anticipated.
we've got some contenders up here that could very well spoil the party for Ryan Luza. Keep in mind, Luza wants to win. He wants to get into the final race at the Homestead Miami Speedway, but he's got to try to lock himself in with a win or at least get there on points. You want to have a little comfortable run at Dover, though, as well. Here comes Richardson to the inside of Sturgis. Sturgis on that outside line, trying to keep it off the safer barrier. Looks like the 01 of Richardson will handily take position number 2 away. Sturgis will fall into line in position number 3. He gets a little bit free in the middle of corners 1 and 2. It opens the door for Mullison, free again off of corner number 2. The 41 car is a handful.
And they're going to go side by side in that battle for third. Sturgis all of a sudden losing 2 positions after making a contact with the outside wall. Mullis going to be able to move up into the number 3 spot as Marcus Richardson in front of him took over second. But it's a fair question for Luza. If you get in a late race battle, how much are you willing to risk? There's going to be 20 laps to go the next time by, and that's a significant number because that's how many points he has above the cut line. He is the safest driver, as opposed to Ray Alfalo with a win, into tonight. A second place finish would probably give him enough points to be comfortable at Dover. If you get in a late race battle, are you willing to risk that to go for the win? Knowing Ryan Luza, the answer is probably yes. We talked to him in our NASCAR K&N Pro Series preview show before Daytona and throughout the year. He has said on a consistent basis he is expecting a car that could win races week in, week out, and that is what he is going to go for. He is working 6/10 in front of P2.
And P2, speaking of which, Marcus Richardson, he is sitting in 7th right now, 12 points out of the playoff contention. But either way, though, he is being comfortable in position number 2. You look a little further back, though, and that's where things start getting hairy. Logan Clampitt, he just skated through position number 10. He's now in 9th. He just cleared this entire group of cars that have been quite heartedly fighting and making Clampitt use, I think, most of his tires, trying to get through that traffic. Now he's finding himself behind Cody Bias. Cody Bias, however, he's moving to the inside of Mitchell Hunt. Guys who really hadn't been there all day long are finding themselves up to the front of the field. But not only that, Evan, they're running very good and competitive lap times, which means that everybody that's in the playoff that was up front, well, they really got to work for it. They really got to try to catch in the closing stages of this race.
But a bigger struggle for them is they're not working through the field with fresher tires. Remember, they pitted and had to stay out under the yellow to get back to the lead lap, so that's going to hurt the 44 Clamp. But I think he's making up time on Hunt and Bias. Those 2 drivers just swapped out position number 7, with Bias making a move on Hunt as of the last time by. And it looks like Clampitt's going to move in 2, and he will get that spot as the 71 of Hunt, close call in 4. He is really slow down the front straightaway. He had to get way out of the gas, and he'll lose 6 spots all of a sudden.
Yeah, they're passing him on the inside and the outside. Here comes Bergeron taking a look to the inside of the 71 as well. And that is all behind Logan Clampitt as we were watching him come through the field. Logan Clampitt along with Michael Conti. You just saw Conti flash through as Mitchell Hunt fell back. Michael Conti, one of those ones coming towards the front of the field. This should put him close to the top 10, back in position number 11. But time, indeed, is starting to run out on these drivers. Less than 20 laps to go. If you're going to want to make your move, you're going to want to start making it now. 5 looking at the 4 of Timmy Hill and a couple of others near the front of the field.
Also have to keep an eye on just how many laps are left in this race. There's funny to back around 23rd. We've been talking about it, and that is where a lot of that mixed bag of drivers who got caught out on the strategy and those who didn't are in a melting pot mid-pack trying to find a way around each other. But that time by 15 laps to go from Chicagoland Speedway. The run to the end of this thing is brought to you by Blue DEF, the official diesel exhaust fluid and DEF equipment of NASCAR. A yellow inside of 5 laps to go or less ends this race. That is the point of no return, and a caution will come out before that. 14 left on the board, and the yellow will fly.
And that is for the number 94 car of Philip Diaz. I'm almost wondering if this was part of this giant ongoing battle. Well, it was, involving a couple of cars here for P18. Joe Letterella was involved in this one, as well as Byron Daly. They were the ones that were fighting for position. Diaz, though, he ended up coming off the up to the high side of the track. Joe Letterella was already there. He had the momentum, and that put the number 94 around. But I will say, things were getting very crazy back there. There was a very near miss with a couple of cars, including Bobby Zelensky, a couple of laps prior to that around P23. So it was probably only going to be a matter of time before something kicked off.
Those were Inex teammates who got together. You never want to see friendly fire like that. I think the 33 tried to lift, but I don't think Philip Diaz really put a slide job on him on purpose. I think he just committed to that corner, and it was tight. It was tight. He slid up the racetrack, and they got into each other. So we get one more opportunity to shake things up. Pit road is open, and your race leaders are headed down. Ryan Luza took over the control of this race after winning a race off of pit road. He brings us down this time. What's the call going to be?
We'll see what happens with the number 1 car of Luza and the rest of these drivers as they go down to pit road, and see if anybody decides to gamble with this less laps in the race. I wouldn't put it past somebody to do a 2-tire change here, as the 77 of Fayash might have done that. Luza is going to be mired in traffic.
Luza does win, I think, the battle off of pit road for 4 tires, but Andrew Fayash, Alex Bergeron, and Taylor Hurst are going to go with the 2-tire call and completely shuffle up the running order in this thing, as off of pit road, Luza is tailed by Daly, who I believe also may have got him with 2 tires, and then Richardson, Mullis, Vincent, Busa, and company. A wide variety of the pit strategy that time down.
Yeah, what we're going to see here, your front 3 cars that have gotten off of pit road all took 2. Luza's the first to come off with 4. He actually beat Byron Daly, who took 2. Richardson, Mullis, Vincent all taking 4, and then you get back down a little further. Jake Sturgis, hopefully they could get that car a little bit more repaired to see if he can get some speed back on that car, because after that impact he was falling back quite steadily. He took 4, Bias took 4, Tucker Reynolds, Clampitt took 4, and I think Clampitt is really the important one here, because he was finding himself stuck in traffic.
So as the field cycles by the start-finish line this time, we get an updated look at the running order. Fayash, Bergeron, and Hurst are going to be able to leapfrog Luza, but Jake Nichols in the 73 is in front of them all. He decided just to not come down pit road, and he will go to the race lead on no tires. So we've got no tires, 2 tires, and 4 tires. And the first driver in line with 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles is Ryan Luza in that number 1 Ford. And we'll try to get a word with him on the radio. Ryan, you got us?
I got you, Evan.
Well, you guys were just out in front of this, and I think kind of putting the feet up and hoping that this thing would run to the end. A caution flag late in this thing is not an uncommon sight, and you guys have to roll with the cards that you are dealt. The decision for 4 tires, was that an easy call?
I know it was pretty easy. I figured taking 2 would just be asking to lose, because it's just so much time. You know, in tires, we're already over a second off versus fresh tires. I don't know, didn't really expect this many people. I was hoping just 2 or 3, but we're really gonna have to push here. Hopefully I can open up to the outside or the inside and just have somewhere to go, essentially.
Yeah, you being, it looks like you're going to line up on the inside of row number 3. Do you think that inside lane makes it any more difficult for you to get around because you don't have that open space up top to go to, and you're kind of at the mercy of the 2 cars in front of you on the restart who have 2 tires and no tires?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more trapped feeling. If I kind of get stuck on the bottom, I'm going to be looking to push my way towards the second groove if possible. But more than anything, it's not worth the risk right now to get wrecked. So try to win first, but keep the car clean.
Lights are out on top of the pace car. We'll let you get out of here. You're restarting P5. Ryan, best of luck. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks, Evan.
But that is Ryan Luza. Thoughts for the driver who is about, as I was talking about, 14 laps away from winning this race. Instead, a caution, pit cycles, and a whole array of strategy going to leave us with 10 laps to go from Chicago. And he is now back on the inside of row number 3. In front of him again, Nichols on no tires and Fayash on 2. Going to make up the front row with Alex Bergeron and Taylor Hurst on row number 2. Those drivers as well with 2 tires. Is this going to be for the final time tonight? The pace car going to dive down to the safety of the pit lane. Watch the tire spin on the front couple of rows. Can Nichols get going? Green flag in the air.
73 car trying to throw a Hail Mary here and try to win his first NASCAR Antifreeze Series race. The 12 gets a great start on the inside. Alex Bergeron will move to second. But here comes Ryan Luza in car number 1. Passes Fayash, looks to the outside, and they're all coming up on Nichols.
He's going to get boxed in, though. There's nowhere for him to go, and there's contact. Lusa going to get onto the brakes. He gets tagged by Fayash. 3 wide for the race lead as Taylor Hurst goes to the inside. Side by side with Bergeron all the way through turn number 4. Is that damage going to hurt Ryan Lusa? And if not, can he even get around these guys? They're still door-to-door for the race lead. Inside of the racetrack, Hurst, caution flag will fly with the 74 in front.
And that is going to be your number 11 car. Ended up having an incident with Kenny Humpy. Humpy obviously not where he wanted to be. Found himself beside Brad Davies. Brad Davies, I think, thought maybe he went to the apron. That turned him around, and that's well back in your pack down in 21st. They went safe to the inside, but obviously you can throw that caution, and this really kind of throws everything for a loop now, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was very similar, Tim, to an incident we saw earlier in this race. And talking about that apron, it's an option, but this racetrack, it's a little bit more of a harsh transition compared to some of these other intermediate tracks, and I think the one saw the 58 going down and figured he was following the 33 and just crowded him a little bit too much. Davies and that 58, they both, along with Hempy, ended up going for a ride down there on the inside of the racetrack. Luckily enough, most incidents like that don't end quite as mildly. They tend to slide back up on track and in front of traffic. That didn't happen, so just a 2-car spin to bring out the caution flag. But how about that restart? It was a power move by Lusa, and he added all the speed in turn 2, but he got boxed in. Almost turned, I think it was the 74 to the 12 in front of him, and then he got hit pretty hard in the back by Fayash and ends up third out of all of this, and Taylor Hurst to the point.
And for Ryan Lusa, it's not pretty, but it could have been a bigger mess than it was down the back straightaway. We've seen it before with some of those leaders at the end of the race. They get hooked, they end up in the grass, they end up near the wall, and they end up not winning a race. They end up finishing 20th or 25th or somewhere near the back of the lead lap. Ryan Lusa has one more opportunity to do it. We are going to have one more restart to close off this race, and he's sitting in position number 3. It looks good championship contention-wise, though. You have the 1 of Ryan Lusa up there. You have the 01 of Marcus Richardson behind as Nolan Scott gets the free pass. Christian Chalmers had issues this evening. He's sitting, I believe, 7 or 8 laps down near the back of the field, 9 laps down in 36th place right now. So he's had a bad night. Obviously, Zach Novak has had a bad night. We talked a little earlier about Corey Vincent getting a good timed caution. He's in the top 10. So there's some of those playoff contenders having good runs here. Yes, there are a lot of cars on the lead lap coming down to the end of this. One small move on this caution play could send you outside the top 30. But right now we have some of those drivers that are, if they don't win this race, they're going to feel a little bit better going into Dover.
And I think Marcus Richardson would very much appreciate if we just dropped the checkered flag now, because he came into tonight 12 points below the cut line, 7th in the points, and if he could get a chance to win this race, it would be huge, but he stands to gain a lot where he sits now. You know, tough result for Logan Clampitt, who right now runs in 12th position after getting caught out on a couple of yellows, but I think most importantly, Bobby Zelensky quite down the ladder in 23rd position. Challenger, who was behind him in the points, having an abysmal night. There's no doubt that Challenger is going to have to win at Dover or go home if he has any intentions of fighting for a championship. So right now, Richardson is in a fantastic spot. And it's always that risk that, Cam, does he want this restart? Does he want to push it to get that win and that free ticket? Or is risking this again and having one more restart, putting that P4 in jeopardy?
Well, I think it's going to be quite a bit safer when everybody has the same amount of laps on their tires, even though that did, for the most part, work out. I have to say, though, Taylor Hurst hasn't led a restart yet this race, so you don't know when Taylor Hurst is going to go. Is he going to wait till the last moment, or is he going to go as soon as he gets the chance? You got Alex Bergeron on the outside. He hasn't really been up front here all day, so there are quite a few unknowns, but at the same time, restarts are always supposed to be aggressive. You have to be aggressive, and you can actually find yourself getting in trouble simply because you're being too conservative. So sort of almost a lose-lose here. You're in the chance to get a massive points haul. Corey Vincent's not that far behind. Logan Clampitt's not that far behind. If anything goes wrong, you get yourself loose, you get yourself freight trained, you might find yourself well in the back.
And you have to remember that the two drivers on the front row took 2 tires the last time they were down pit lane. Couple that with the fact that Hurst, as noted, has never brought us to a restart so far tonight. Could mean that it'll be a little bit tricky for the 74 to get off and get going. And Clampitt jumps up a row. Instead of restarting 5th, he's going to restart 3rd, Tim, but he is still stuck on the bottom of the racetrack and boxed in to an extent.
Here's something else to keep in mind. If they wreck, this race is over. If they get a quick caution flag, this race is over. Taylor Hurst, Alex Bergeron, never been to victory lane in a NASCAR K&N Series race. Taylor Hurst has 4 top 5s this season in 10 races. He's been knocking on the door. He's waiting for somebody to answer. We'll see if it'll be this evening. Then you got those 2 championship contenders on row number 2. This restart is going to be great. We'll see who comes out the other side.
Going to be the final restart on the night. 4 laps to go from Chicago. A caution flag would end it. The leader at the moment of yellow would walk away with the checkered flag and quite possibly, depending on who it is, the ticket to the season finale at Homestead. Here we go. Pace car headed down. Taylor Hurst looking for his first NASCAR K&N Series win. Green flag flies as we get back at it. Bergeron fast from the outside of row 1. He'll get 2nd. Luza has to slot in 3rd.
Is actually carrying a bit of rear wing damage. I almost wonder if that'll perhaps slide him back and see if Richardson can capitalize on that. Richardson, though, has got Jimmy Mullis around him as we're running down the backstretch. Time running out for Michael Luza and Richardson as they're starting to form a bit of a gap, and in between that gap is Corey Vincent.
Here comes the one up the inside, side by side for 2nd. He's got a run at Alex Bergeron, and he will get 2nd at the start-finish line. 3 laps to go that time. He needs to get clear. He cannot give up any more time to Taylor Hurst, and he does. Big run on the inside of the racetrack. Ryan Luza looking for win number 4 on the season. He's on the back bumper.
Behind them, they fan out. Caution flag will fly, and Ryan Luza will run out of time. And if he can make it back for the next 2.5 laps, Taylor Hurst is going to win his first NPAS race.
Second time tonight, the 11 of Brad Davies involved in an incident. He got hit, I think, by the 48 machine, who came down and hip-checked him halfway down the back straightaway in a 3-wide fight for 27th, 28th, and 29th. Davies spins off the racetrack. The yellow flag comes out. And this race will not get to its final 2 laps of green flag action. And Taylor Hurst may have to count his blessings on that one, because Ryan Luza, despite that back end damage, which I'm sure to an extent was hurting that race car in some way, was fast on the inside in the center of the corner, and you could attribute that to the call to go with 4 tires. He was there, and I feel like if he had all 2 of those laps, he would have been able to make something happen.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? When you get the victory, you got to take it when you can get it. And there was also actually a secondary incident on front that brought this out. So even if that Davies incident didn't happen, still would have been a caution. But either way, it's going to be a pretty good feeling, even if these get in the checkered when it's got a yellow waving with it.
And you can see it on that one shot. Those were 2 accidents basically simultaneously on the back straightaway. And again, this isn't a huge loss for Luza. Tim, into tonight, 20 points to the good. We've mentioned that a handful of drivers have had a bad go at it tonight. He will be all but mathematically locked into Dover, but I'm sure Luza would have liked to be able to get in based on the win, but it's all not a loss for that team.
Yeah, with no winner in the playoffs this evening, it's going to open up at least 2 spots or points, and that's given one of those playoff contenders doesn't win at Dover. So Ryan Luza is looking pretty good here after this evening. Another note, Bobby Zielinski was outside the top 25 on that restart. He's going to come home in 18th place, so damage control a little bit for the 83 car. He's not necessarily out of the woods, but he's definitely going to gain a few points than he would have after that restart. So it's great to see what they can do, but man, Taylor Hurst has come close so many times in the last couple of years. He's finally, as long as he can keep it underneath him, is going to come to his first NASCAR K&N Series win. You better believe there's going to be a lot of celebrating there.
It may sound surprising for somebody. Taylor Hurst has been able to find success both in this and at the Pro Series level, and tonight it took a strategy call to get him over that hump, but he is going to get his first ever checkered flag in the NASCAR K&N Series, powered by iRacing. It'll be at a slowed pace across the start-finish line, but he will take the checker. Taylor Hurst is your winner from Chicago.
and I think they're going to have a lot to decompress here. Pretty much the entire race is the race of inappropriately timed cautions and then absolute risks on pit lane. He's drifting it around corners 1 and number 2. That 74 car. He's throwing it sideways down on that inside apron. I have a feeling he has been waiting to do something like that for a very long time.
He has waited a very long time, and tonight finally is able to get retribution for it all as he will take home the checkered flag. A first win is always something that you want to be able to get, and for some drivers, Ryan Luza maybe as a good example in this thing can come into a series for their first time and be able to find that rhythm, and Taylor Hurst has been in this position, Tim, to get wins many a time, and he's sometimes seen those opportunities slip away by late race yellows, and a race starts falling in the direction that didn't favor him. Tonight, the call was right, and the yellow flag fell at the right time, and sometimes you just have to wait for something like that to happen to you.
And Taylor Hurst has been waiting a long while for something like this to happen, and he's going to pull into victory lane. But you look at the other side of it, too. We'll look at the results in a few moments, but Marcus Richardson, Logan Clampitt, playoff contenders within the top 10, as well as Ryan Luza. A couple of drivers that parlayed that strategy also going to come home with great finishes. Jimmy Mullis wasn't on our radar for most of the night, and he's in third.
Taylor Hurst going to take a slow roll across the front straightaway here at the Chicagoland Speedway. He will take it all in as he is a winner at iRacing's top oval level. Your winner tonight in the 14th race of this 2017 NASCAR K&N Series. We'll catch up with the driver to 74 in just a minute. First, let's take a look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV full race results for race number 14. Taylor Hurst takes the checkers. We'll be chatting with him, as well as Ryan Luza in second, Jimmy Wallace, who comes home third, Alex Bergeron fourth, and Marcus Richardson fifth, who rounds out your top 5 finishers here tonight. Corey Vincent, solid result to come home in 6th position, and Logan Clampitt was able to claw his way back to a decent points night after getting caught out on a yellow. He will come home in 7th position tonight after running up front for most of it. Cody Bias just behind him in the number 8 position, with Andrew Fayash in 9th position, and Jake Sturgis rounds out your top 10.
11th, going to see the 66 of Blake Reynolds. He was within the top 10 for most of the evening. Going to come home 1 spot short in 11th. Timmy Hill, one of those drivers that parlayed some pit strategy late in the race, going to come home with a 12th place finish. Mitchell Hunt 13th, Joe Letteriello in 14th position, Chris Shearburn 15th. Casey Tucker comes home with 16th place. Brian Schoenberg in his 17th. Bobby Zielinski comes home with 18th. Nick Ottinger in 19th. Completing your top 20, it's Michael Johnson.
And finishing in the 21st position is Chris Overland. Derek Bordeaux, who started in 4th, comes home in 22nd. Tyler Hill, he'll finish 23rd. Philip Diaz, 24th. Byron Daly, he'll finish in the 25th position. Daniel Kryzak, he'll finish in 26th. Dylan Duvall in 27th. Adam Gilliland in 28th position. Nolan Scott, 29th. And Kenny Humpy, he will finish in 30th.
Continuing on through 31st position is David Rattler with Jake Nichols 32nd, Michael Conti 33rd, and Brad Davies in the number 34 spot with Busa there. Those will round out your drivers on the lead lap. Then you got Davies 35th, Christian Challenger in 36th position, Brian Blackford 37th, pole sitter Zach Novak, a tough pill to swallow. He will be in desperate scenarios in 2 weeks' time at Dover. Comes home in 38th spot with Will Cooley 39th, Ryan Lowe at 40th, and then to round out the field here tonight at the back, Alan Bowes comes home in 41st. So that's a look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV full race results. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back to Chicago, we'll be chatting with your newest winner in the NASCAR K&N Series, Taylor Hurst. Get the job done tonight from Chicago. We'll hear his thoughts when we come back.
When I was 16 years old, I was working in a Goodyear tire store, and my boss actually built an old dirt car, street stock Monte Carlo. Went with him one night, fell in love with it. It was a hell of a race, hell of a party, and a big fight afterwards. I was like, this is it. This is it for me. It wasn't long after that, I was driving an old 78 Camaro out of the weeds at that guy's farm. We pulled that thing out and made a race car out of it, and away we went. You know, I think a driver has more to do with the equation going back and racing dirt, whether it's a modified, a late model. You can do more with the race car. You know, the harder you drive it, a lot of times, the better it goes. You can crawl up on that wheel and feel like you made the difference at the end of the night. Asphalt car, you can't overdrive them. Well, that was the first thing that I had to learn right off the bat is, oh my gosh, I've got to discipline myself, not overdrive this thing, and that's how you get the most out of it. Truth be told, communicating the right information to your crew and your crew chief so they can do their job and make their appropriate adjustments for you to go faster and do your job is probably 90% of the game in our world. I've always loved late models. You know, my dream was to be a late model driver driving for a living across the country like Darrell and Don do that drive for me. I mean, that was, truth be told, that was my dream, you know. I always wanted a semi. I always wanted a stacker trailer with 2 hot rods in it and let's go racing. Let's take off with your buddies and go race and chase that dream. Never in a million years did I think it would turn into a Cup Series, and I actually have an opportunity to own 2 you know, dirt late model teams. When you think of iRacing, you don't think of a video game. It's not. It's way above and beyond any of that. You know, dirt racing changes so much. The track changes so much. Being able to capture that, to, you know, experience all those details that surround dirt racing and make dirt racing what it is what makes iRacing so cool, because they did nail all of that. I knew when they came to our shop and scanned cars and went to the detail of getting that car right, I knew that it was going to be over the top, because it blew my mind just the work that went into making sure the car itself was legit. This sport has been around a long time. The competition can't be replaced, and that's what brings people back to the racetrack week in and week out.
Welcome back live to the Chicagoland Speedway. This race ends under caution after an incident with 2 laps to go in this thing. It means that Taylor Hurst will hang on and to get his first career win in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series, powered by iRacing, over top of the likes of Lewis, Wallace, Bergeron, and Richardson. But happy that you're still with us at Race Spot TV at iRacing Live. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Cam Walsh up top side with you as we work our way into the post-race show. And Tim, this race had a little bit of everything. Long green flag stretches, cautions, pit strategy, and late race restarts that tonight went in favor of the 74.
You had some drivers that are feeling probably a little heartbroken at the end of this one, and then you have some drivers that are going to celebrate before we head in to Dover for our next round. But Taylor Hurst, man, oh man, first win in this series, long time coming, well deserved, and I would say that he's probably a little bit excited about this one.
First win in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series tends to be a culmination of what is often years and years of work, hours and hours a week. And let's go trackside and chat with the driver of the number 74 machine as Taylor Hurst gets the win in tonight's Chicagoland 250. And want to, of course, congratulate Taylor on the win, sir. Congratulations on that one. A wild race. And considering you guys start the night 37th in warm-up, and 26th on the grid, if we told you 2 hours ago you'd be a winner in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series, would you believe us?
I doubt it. I mean, we've had some good cars all year. Nothing on the short run at any racetrack, but these cars just come in so well. And shout out to Adam Benefield this week for working hard, and Christian Chowner and Marcus Richardson, everybody over at One Up, and my guys, Robbie, all them guys for testing. We put a lot of time into this stuff, and it's finally paid off after 3 years. We can get us one.
And I find it funny that you say that it wasn't good on the short runs, because this race ended on a short run, and obviously your tire strategy call you guys made to go with 2 tires. All but 3 people who pitted went with 4. You were in that small group. Whose call was that, and what were you thinking after you come out of the pit lane and you're on the front row?
Well, we didn't really have a choice but to take 2. The way we had 15 laps on tires, I believe, and we knew people were going to be taking 2 and staying out, and we figured we'd be fairly close to the front and put us in 4th, and got a pretty good restart. They slipped up a little bit on the back, and I took it 3 wide about 20 times that race. Might as well do it again, and got the lead out of it. So, it was crazy in there. I was surprised the car actually went that fast there at the end. I slapped a little bit of tape on it and did some adjustments, though, to help it out a little bit, and it was flying.
And over the course of this race as well, it wasn't all short runs. We started off rolling through a green flag cycle to pit stops, and we saw that a couple of times as well. Just kind of walk us through your night after starting to mid-pack and how those long runs put you in a position to be able to make that call at the end that gets you guys the win.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for every week is the long runs, man. And we figured out quick that the car was really quick on the bottom after about 10 laps, and I was just picking them off one by one. I was able to dive it in real hard and get right back in the gas, and I was getting lap times from Shane and Robbie, and they were just telling me I was quicker than the leader every lap pretty much, and we got a good caution, put us about 15th. We jumped up a little bit from that midway through the race, and I don't know how, but I was restarting about 25th there on the last about 30 laps to go, and I don't even know how I got up to the front, to be honest with you.
One thing we said towards the end of this is it's not easy to win these races just based on a couple of things. Is that one, just the talent level and the competition in this series is so high, but also 2, you get so many limited options and opportunities to be able to win these races that a lot has to go right. And oftentimes things don't go right, but tonight everything lined up for you. You got the late race yellow, you took the gamble, you got 2 yellows after that to be able to save the tires, and then loses there, knock it on the doorstep, and they wreck back inside of the 20s, and you guys were able to coast and let that heart rate come down to the checkered flag. Just kind of looking back, this first career win for you, I know, has got to be huge as a culmination of a lot of effort by you yourself, and of course the guys at the team and everybody behind the scenes.
Absolutely, man, and it surely is not easy to win these things. I know old 3-time Ray Alfalla makes it look easy sometimes, but it's tough, man. I've been doing this for 3 years now, and statistically, this is my best racetrack. I finished 2nd and 4th, and now 1st in my 3 years, and I've been in the seat to win one of these things. I can count on one hand how many times. So. But I want to give a big shout out to Adam Benefiel for really figuring some stuff out with the car this week, and shout out to Shane Miller and Robbie Vrabel for spotting me and crewing me tonight, and big shout out to RTR Websites and Digital Downforce Graphics for coming on board this year. Wonderful sponsor. You can check them out. And shout out to Brad Newman Photography. That's my buddy. Check him out on Facebook and whatnot. And I was showing a lot of love tonight after coming across the line there. I was pretty surprised by it. I didn't think I had that many fans out there, but a bunch of drivers and crew and stuff with these other guys showing a lot of love. That's really cool.
I can promise you that there were a lot of people as well watching in live that were cheering for you there late. It's always fun to see a first-time winner, and it's not like just because of the fact that you guys aren't in the top 8 in the championship that these final couple of weeks are, have no meaning. You guys sit now 12th in the points added tonight. The objective, obviously, to fight and maintain the top 20 to be able to be locked into this series next year, and I think a trip to victory lane and getting max points for that is a step in the right direction, Taylor. So congratulations on the win. Thanks as well for taking the time to chat with us, and hopefully for you guys, there's a couple more of these down the line, and we'll have an opportunity to chat soon.
I appreciate it, Evan. I surely hope so.
The race winner tonight from Chicagoland. First time in his career, Taylor Hurst takes home a checkered flag in the NASCAR K&N Series, winning tonight Chicagoland 250. On the flip side of that, guys, a rookie in this series that was hunting a 4th win on the season, and a win, Tim, that would have punched his ticket to Homestead. Ryan Lewis is still a good points night, who comes home in 2nd, and your track side with the driver of the number 1.
Yeah, still definitely a good point night, but what could have been on this evening as Ryan Luza comes home in 2nd. Ryan, talk to you under one of these caution flags late in the race, but let's talk about the little rendezvous down the back straightaway with about 10 laps to go. You, the 12 and the 73 going for the win.
Yeah, I mean, I had to run on the high side. I knew Bergeron was going to get Nichols, and the last thing I wanted to do was enter behind Nichols, who had no tires. So I stuck my left front right there with Bergeron on his quarter, so he could see that I was going to try to go right through the middle. And I came down a little bit. He came up. He was defending the spot and almost wrecked me and Marcus and a lot of the guys up front racing for the chase. So I don't necessarily agree with it, but we're all racing for the win. That was my play for the win, was to make it down the middle, and he shut the door. And luckily it didn't wreck us, and we still came back, finished 2nd.
Looked like the car was strong at the end of the race. If we would have had those other 2 laps, do you think you could have cleared the 74?
Oh, for sure. With the fresh tires, the car was still really good, even with a little bit of damage. Yeah, I didn't want that caution to come out, and the caution with about 19 to go because we were pretty much long gone. So a lot of, misfortune there at the end, but we also had a lot of good luck through the race, catching cautions, and a lot of other people, especially chase guys, got stuck pitting, so can't really complain about luck. Just really should have brought it home. I feel like we should have brought the win home at Darlington too, with that lane change. So I don't know, 2nd and 3rd is fine. We have a big points gap going into Dover. Just really can't wreck at Dover, and we should be pretty much locked in here going into Homestead.
You mentioned that gap, unofficially 26 up on what would be 4th place in the points after you include Ray Alfala up there at the top with that win. Are you comfortable with Dover? You mentioned just don't wreck and we're in. How comfortable are you going into Dover at our next event?
I mean, it's definitely not comfortable. I mean, because anything can happen and you can wreck and you can find yourself last. And then you're sitting there hoping that somebody doesn't finish in the top 15, where all of these guys running for Homestead can finish, 1, 2, 1st through 8th. So really just need to go up like we have been every week and try to run up front and position ourselves to stay out of the mess and just, stay up in top 5 and position ourselves toward the end.
Before we let you go here this evening, who do you have on the side of this car?
I got to think Fast Track Sims. Need any sim racing equipment. They have a ton, full motion rigs, dirt rigs, triple monitor stands, just anything you could possibly need for sim racing. And thanks to Dylan Duvall for the new paint scheme.
There you go. There's Ryan Luza, position number 2, and comfortable heading in to that final race in Dover. But Cam, there's no lead that's really comfortable when you talk about a playoff contention with 1 race to go. You're standing by with a guy that darn near had a winning performance here this evening late in the race, Jimmy Mullis.
Yeah, one of the other guys who ended up taking 4 tires towards the end of that. Jimmy, well, Chicagoland really had a different pace to it. We seem to have green flag runs, then cautions, green flag runs, then cautions. Why don't you take me through your night here at Chicagoland?
I'm really missing in qualifying. Started 23rd, and the goal was just to be here for points. I'm kind of on the edge of losing a spot in the series for next season. So was really just focused on the guys around me in points and was just trying to be smart with that and keep the car clean. And rode like 20th to 23rd the entire race until I'd say the last 60 laps. And then we stayed out a little longer than anyone else that last run before we got the yellow with 30 to go. And the yellow came out right as I was entering the pits, and I think we ended up coming out like 4th for the restart. And luckily with that, I was just able to hold on with track position and bring it home 3rd.
Yeah, you ended up taking 4 tires at the end of that. How tough of a call was it? I mean, you probably knew people were going to be taking 2 tires, but 4 just seemed to be the better bet, especially here early on. If you had those couple of laps, I'm sure you probably think you could have got around Taylor Hurst, but either way, with the caution coming out, it kind of put an end to that. Just take me through the decision you guys had to make to go between 4 or 2, or was that even a question?
It really wasn't, because we were running third. We didn't feel like if we took 4, it was going to drop us back too far. But we definitely knew in the back of our heads that people were going to take 2, because that's just normally what happens with late race cautions like that. So, but no, it wasn't really a concern of ours. We were just focused on, getting the good points. The top 5 is great, but the points was really the main focus, and the fact that we might have had a chance to go for the win if the caution didn't come out at the end right there is definitely awesome. It's unfortunate it ended under yellow, but like I said, P3 is extremely awesome for me and everyone on J Shores Motorsports. We've put a lot of work into this team and our setups every week, and this week finally shows that we're starting to come together. So.
Yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to go to Dover. With this, you're now 25th in points. One of the many 2016 pro drivers who seem to be doing pretty well. Looking forward to Dover?
I've never really been super strong at Dover. It's a track I've always kind of struggled with, but you got to go everywhere every once in a while. So, gonna put a lot of time in like I do every week, and hopefully, we'll have a good car prepared and we'll run up front, or at least run top 20, top 15, like we did tonight, and maybe even come out with a good result again. Who knows? But main goal for the rest of the season is just to pull out some solid finishes in these last 2 and stay in the series and move on to next year.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you guys keep doing what you're doing, we'll see you there. But who gets it done for that number 40 Ford? You guys seem to be having a really good back half of the season.
Extremely huge shout out to everyone on J Shores Motorsports, but in particularly Jesse Shores and Colton Davis. They are a huge part of the 40 team, and just the whole team in general. For Jesse, he does all the setup stuff and puts a lot of time in, and I really appreciate everything he does for me. But as well as everyone else on J Shores, nobody's left out. We do this as a team, and finally pull something out like this is really awesome, like I've said. And also shout out to Race Spot for the broadcast, Truck It Now, Transport Services for being on the car, as well as K1 Speed and iTake Computer Tech Solutions, and also thanks to Peak for sponsoring this series.
Well, Jimmy, thanks very much for hopping in the booth with us and taking some time. Good luck at Dover, and we'll see you there.
Thank you.
And finishing in the 4th position, well, we just talked with him just last night, but that was obviously a very different situation. Now finding himself in 4th in the Peak Antifreeze Series, it's Alex Bergeron, and he's standing alongside Tim Terry.
Alex, let's talk about the pit call with about 15 laps to go, taking 2 tires and coming up towards the front of the field. Was there any second guessing that call?
Well, I'll shout out to my crew chief, Don Etcher, for the call. He was the man for that. We made a good call and stick to that strategy and went for a 4th place tonight.
That battle near the end, you and Ryan Lewis and Jake Nichols going for the lead. You were knocked sideways a little bit by that number 1 car, but you kept it straight. Talk about that little battle there.
Well, I guess my dirt experience got in the way for that. I saved the car and tried to keep it on the track, and I did. So it was nervous, but it's racing, so it was a good race tonight.
You have to be happy with the top 5 finish here at Chicagoland in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. What are your goals for the final 2 races of this season?
Well, I will try to keep the license and finishing in top 30 in the standings. It's gonna be very tough. The competition is very big, and I think the 30th place, 31 and 32 are 140. It's pretty equal in the points, and I'm just there in 33rd. So I'm gonna try to do everything and get good results like that, and I'm gonna gonna try to get into the top 30 for next season and have a good run for the rest of the season.
Are you excited about Dover coming up in 2 weeks' time in the series?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dover is probably one of my favorite track because it's pretty close and pretty close racing, and I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be pretty awesome.
Now, who do you got on the side of this car that helped you get to a 4th place finish tonight?
Well, thanks everyone at Fastlane Motorsport for the great car tonight, and Jonathan Dickard for the owner of the team, and everybody tonight, Don and Brandon McKissick for being on the standing spot for the spotting, and big shout out to them, and thanks all my sponsor Mara Inc. and all these guys, and for you guys also for broadcasting every peak race, and it's pretty awesome. So thank you guys, and see you in 2 weeks.
Great to see Alex Bergeron up here in the top 5, finishing in position number 4 in Cam. Busy guy he is, coming home from racing in the dirt on here on iRacing and doing some real stuff as well, and now coming home with a 4th place finish here in this series. I believe Marcus Richardson is next up on the list in position number 5. You've got up with him.
Yeah, Marcus Richardson, pretty decent day today, I'd have to say. Started 18th, came home in 5th positions, took the 4 tires on that final caution. Marcus, why don't you tell me how your day went here at Chicagoland?
Yeah, thank you. It was stressful. I didn't get the qualifying lap that I wanted or expected, but shout outs to Adam Benefiel. He made a great setup this week, and we had some very tragic things happen on our team with Jason Miller and Bradley Javier, both crew chiefs for both me and Christian, and so we had to kind of step up and make our own little setups here, and it worked out great for us. I thought we had a winning car. It just didn't fall my way tonight.
Yeah, pretty much the entire race, you were battling with the number 10 at Corey Vincent. It seemed that every single time we looked to that top 10, top 15, you guys were battling pretty much all night long. Normally it would just be a good battle, but this is for playoff points, and it's getting to that point. Nobody took the playoff lock here with a win, obviously it going to a non-playoff driver, but going to Dover, the pressure's going to be on.
Yeah, it looks like I'm technically going to be like 6th in points because Ray's going to be in front of me with the win. So I need to beat Zielinski by about 5 or 6 spots next week, really, to have a shot at the top 4. But I feel like I run well at Dover. We have to see what we can come up with for the track. It's going to be a little trickier. We were really good this week. We've been lacking speed the last few weeks, and our cars have handled great. And this week we had a ton of speed, so hopefully that transfers over for next week. Hopefully we're just peaking at the right time. I didn't get a top 5 all of pro all of this year, so I'm just ecstatic, and I can't wait to get to the track in 2 weeks.
Yeah, yet another pro driver having a fairly good season, making it to the playoffs. Is there anybody that gets it done for anybody you'd like to give a thanks or a special shout out to?
Well, again, the shout outs to Adam for doing a great job on the setup for this week, and again, condolences to Jason Miller and Bradley for the incidences that they had in their family. Out of respect for them, I'm not going to really say it on the broadcast, but just condolences to them, and shout outs to my sponsors, I Analyze Racing and Hussenveld Engineering. Hussenveld actually got me a rig for this year. I used to race on a dresser drawer, so that's a lot more comfortable for me. So thanks to everybody at One Up Motorsports, Alan Pajari, and also known as Peak Pajari, for helping me. Spike gets me through a lot of the wrecks. He does a great job, and thank you guys for broadcasting it. I'll have to watch it back.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for hopping in the booth with us. And as someone who races on a folding camping table, you have my envy. So, Marcus, thank you so much for hopping in the booth with us, and we'll see you at Dover.
Yep, thank you, C.
And Evan, I believe that's that for the driver interviews. We're going to hand it off back to you.
that brings things full circle as we wrap up tonight from the Chicagoland Speedway. And again, a little bit of a longer night if you were with us early in the evening for the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series. Next time we do this in 2 weeks' time, that series is also going to lead off our coverage. So I encourage you, if you didn't tonight, to show up an hour earlier at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock at the West Coast to make sure you're with us for both nights of action. But Chicagoland Speedway is one of my more pleasant or favorite of the intermediate racetracks. It has that little bit of a unique characteristic to it with the curved back straightaway, a little bit of less banking in some places, but it worked out really well tonight, Tim, with the inside and the outside working. There were points in this race where it looked like, okay, it's locked up, Logan Clampitt's going to win it. There were points where, all right, we thought Zach Novak was going to win it, and I think that those are the best kind of races when you have those moments and then a surprise late in this thing, and we heard it when we were talking with Taylor Hurst, no more than with 40 laps to go in this race. He was basically outside of the top 30.
Yeah, you had some comers and goers, and not only late in the race, but at the start of the race as well. We had 2 green flag runs, and Zach Novak had some timed cautions that weren't necessarily playing to his part. Big hole for him going in to that final playoff cutoff before we hit Homestead. He and Christian Chalner are going to have their work cut out for them. Pretty much a must-win for those drivers. But we talked to Marcus Richardson, and he said we have to make up 5 or 6 positions on Bobby Zielinski. Yeah, that's true when you look at it. But you got Corey Vincent, you got Logan Clampitt, and Ryan Luza there as well. Luza's cushion's a little more comfortable, but when you look at Clampitt, Zielinski, Vincent, and Richardson, you're looking at 12 points in between those drivers, and if you don't include Ray Alfala and Ryan Luza in that conversation, there's 4 drivers and 2 spots going in to that Homestead Miami Speedway race. Granted that none of those win at Dover, but you saw it here. You saw the sense of urgency by some of those drivers to get towards the front of the field. But congratulations to Taylor Hurst. Great run by Jimmy Mullis and Alex Bergeron. And as Marcus Richardson mentioned, first top 5 of the year. Shook things up at the end, but you had a guy like Jake Nichols going forward as well. There's lots of stories that we could be talking about here, but a great race overall at Chicagoland Speedway. We'll move forward in 2 weeks to Dover, and we'll see that sense of urgency play on once again for those playoff contenders.
And typically, as you get another race into a round of a playoff or something, Cam, that these races and the spread and the points tend to spread out a little bit. You get a couple more races. Not the case tonight. Things tighten up, as Tim was just mentioning there. Zielinski's going to be on the cut line, only 3 points ahead of Corey Vincent, only 4 points ahead of Marcus Richardson. And if we were to see a Richardson or a Novak or a Challenger pull that win out, next thing you know, Clampitt falls down to the cut line. That would only be 8 points. Luza looks good on points, but if a new winner combined with a rough night strike him at Dover, he is not confirmed, so we will leave tonight as we were coming in, and that is where Ray Alfala is the only driver who knows for certain that they'll be racing at Homestead in just over a month's time.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, just this is the second time I've been here at Chicagoland. I got to say, I'm really falling in love with this place. The racing is always good. And whenever we come here, the drama is always at the highest peak, too, because we got to remember we were right in the middle of the battles between PJ Sturgis and Ray Alfala last season. And right now, with this playoff structure, we've amplified that. I mean, we've had 4 people in the playoffs finish in the top 10. I mean, it doesn't get any tighter than that. And going to Dover, well, things get a little rough and tumble there, as we all know, and that could really, really spell disaster, especially if something like what happened here tonight at Chicagoland happens. When you start getting these cautions that are happening as people are trying to pit or just coming out of pit, we saw that really through the entirety of the field asunder a couple of times, though I will say, once again, the cream rises to the top, and that's why you had 4 playoff contenders finishing in the top 10.
And with all of that being noted, round number 14 from Chicagoland will fall into our rearview mirror. As always, we want to thank you for watching this special presentation of RaceSpot TV at iRacing Live and the Motor Racing Network. You can find out more information about iRacing's World Championship Series online at wcs.iracing.com. On behalf of the entire Tuesday night team, for East Van Palo on the cameras, broadcast CG by Simon Grossman, Kevin Papey, their team. Andy Werder on the graphics, of course, Will Vincent, Hugo Louise, the entire team at Race Spot TV. For Cisco Scaramuza, Andy Kessler, who were with me earlier, and of course the team topside tonight for myself, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, and Cam Walsh. Want to congratulate Taylor Hurst, who is now a winner in the NASCAR K&N Series, and the playoffs will roll into their final race of the open round from the Dover International Speedway in 2 weeks' time. Still 3 spots open. We'll catch you on September the 26th. That race and every race on this 2017 NASCAR K&N Series powered by iRacing can be found right here on Race Spot TV. Until next time, good night.